Chat, I've been talking this whole time. I just want you all to know.
I can't believe
See what I
that
mean?
missed out on
Okay, so if you didn't chat, I was just talking about technical difficulties.
They didn't hear you
Yeah,
say. They didn't.
Chloe's saying we could hear everyone but Nicole.
All right.
my
You know what?
God.
On that note, let's start. How about that?
Let's begin.
Hi, everyone!
Hey.
Yay!
Welcome. Look at all of you.
Hi, everybody. Sorry for all the hold up. Thank you for being patient, chatters. How are we all doing? I just want to reiterate that I was trying to ask chat to get excited. So let's do that right now. Everyone get excited. Come on, chat.
Oh my God, they didn't hear any of that. Oh,
Yeah, they
no.
did. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Like we were just reacting really
Amazing.
blasé, like, oh, they're not ready.
Yeah.
CIA trying to shut the stream down. That's not true. We're actually CIA funded. The CIA came in and told Nicole, "Hey, they can't hear you."
That's right.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
saw a CIA agent watching the Red Planet stream in his car.
And then the
Laptop
CIA
up on the
agent-
dash. Yeah.
The CIA,
Yeah.
Agent, the CIA agent looked at me.
And also, hi, Casey Explosion. I told
hey, Casey.
I use my
Hi,
mouth
Casey.
to say put trans rights in the chat, but no one heard me. So I'm glad that chat still did it anyways. I'm very glad.
Yeah.
Oh,
Big up
man.
Casey. Big up Aronok as well. I see Aronok in the chat.
Oh yeah.
Jeez.
So, chatters.
How's everyone doing?
Yeah, how are y'all doing today? Are you all excited for the show? Did you do your homework? Now, don't panic, chat. If you didn't do your homework, I know a lot of you, we'll touch on that later, but homework is a very scary word for a lot of us. I have a lot of anxiety about the word homework. But remember, this homework it's not like the kind of homework that your teacher berates you for and calls your parents and makes a big deal about. This is more of activities for us to do in real life, and then we can check in with each other and try to hold each other, give ourselves a little accountability buddy,
It's not algebra. It's not algebra. You can calm down,
Yeah, it's not
Yeah,
algebra.
it's not that bad.
It wasn't last week, but we'll see.
All the fez in chat say yo.
We got looks like Pixel Cooker did their homework. Someone said, what was it? Someone just finished their homework.
Oh, baby.
Oh, nice.
Honestly, if you finish your homework during the stream, you can also do that. It's not too late
That's
to
true.
join a union chat. So
Never
That is
too
true.
late.
Exclamation
We're
point
gonna do the check.
IWW. That's the
Yeah.
easiest one to join. Just
We'll
join
do
the IWW.
check. We'll do the check with ones and zeros, but if you are gonna do it right now, you can still put a 1.
I would say let's check on. I think let's check on it later. Maybe. Do you want to check on it later? Or do you
Yeah.
want to check on it?
Leave
All
it.
right. I think that's fair. Give him a bit of leeway this time.
All right, you have until the end of the stream if you're gonna do it right now. Speaking of the IWW, I had, and I think I already shared this in the Shadowy Cabal,
You did.
the secret mod chat, but someone from the IWW reached out,
Oh, that's
and they
Ooh.
are gonna come on organizing interviews, and I'm gonna get them on Red Planet as well, and they're gonna chat to us all about organizing your workplace, organizing
How
your
good is
community.
that, chat?
How
Can we
awesome,
do
Good
that?
as
chat.
fuck.
Oh,
Right?
nice.
Yeah.
Oh, look, we got someone, a highlighted message. Sophie, my trans cousin from Glasgow, personally wants to thank you for your speech at the trans rights protest.
Can you
How
say
good is
that? Can you say that place name again, Tim?
In Glasgow.
Glasgow.
Nailed it. Perfect.
I laugh
Um,
because I totally pronounce it correctly, and it's like, ha, oh boy, you don't pronounce it correctly, and I
What
know how
correct
it's
is, like-
pronounced. So I think it's so
I'm gonna,
funny.
I'm gonna start asking you all to start pronouncing.
Well, it's weird.
shit louder, you know?
It's weird
Yeah,
because
that's
there
valid.
are
No,
3
you should
Brits
do it. We
in
should
the
get
show.
on.
Remember?
Yeah.
There's 3 Brits,
Oh,
and it's like weird that
God.
one of the Brits can't pronounce, Glasgow.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
Frelad, thank you to your cousin. That's wonderful, and
Awesome.
congrats on them. Congrats to them for being them. That's just
Yes.
sick.
And Chad, if you didn't know, Sophie gave a speech and for trans rights in front of the BBC on Turf Island, no less. And it was awesome. It was part of this bigger trans activist protest, and it was pretty fucking cool. So can we get some claps in the chat? Bun clap, or if you're not a sub, bun clap F. That's for followers. You can do it if you're not a subscriber.
If people remember the horrible BBC article that was put out, basically calling trans women rapists, that's a big part of what it was about. And the full speech will be up on my channel tomorrow, so you'll see it there. That's enough of our news, though, isn't it? That's enough of our personal news.
Yeah.
what else is going on in the world outside of us?
Well, I believe you wanted to speak about, well, not just you, but I wanted to speak about as well, the situation in Kazakhstan.
Yeah, I need to be educated on this, so I'm ready. I'm hyped.
Let's check in with chat. Real quick, chat, press 1 if you don't know what's going on in Kazakhstan.
Good point, yeah. Maybe they don't.
And then we can, I just always want to get a feel for like what we're dealing with. And so people can feel a little more like, reflect on their lack of knowing something so they can feel proud when they do get to know it. So.
We got a 0.8. We got a 1.5.
All right, you know what?
Some people
ban anyone who's.
We got a 2.
Ban anyone who's trying to decimal
there
this.
Are levels. There are levels as to what's going on in Kazakhstan. Yeah.
This 2 that we got 00did_money. They are actually in Kazakhstan right now. And they're
shit.
Yeah. They're not, it's not that they know what's going on. They're like literally like they're right there making it happen.
Exactly.
That's the only reason.
Right. So it's the official position of Red Planet that what states are doing around the world right now is making revolution inevitable. What we're gonna see all around the world more and more is people rising up, fighting back, very literally destroying the machinery of state, both metaphorical and literal, like fucking sabotaging the equipment that is pumping carbon into the air, fighting the cops who are oppressing them, shit like this. And that's part of what we're here to do, is report on that and tell people what's going on there. And this week, a pretty perfect example of that happened in Kazakhstan, where basically there's been a mass working class uprising in the streets, flipping over cop cars and shit. Wild footage to watch. Just people just rocking and rocking, and then like just turning a car the whole way over. People working together are just insane.
The thing,
wild.
Yeah.
The thing that I wanted to know, that if you knew, Sophie, that's a bit extra about this, is that some people in Kazakhstan, working revolutionaries, have actually like got a bunch of horses and are
what?
You didn't even
What's this
know.
horses? Hang on, no, I don't know this bit.
They're like fighting, mounted police and military units.
This, yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
All right,
so they
I gotta see that.
Yeah,
Shit.
I'll try and find a clip of it now.
All right. But yeah, so when we're talking about like what states are doing, that sounds a bit nebulous, right? But like specifically, what like the functions of capital are leading to these kinds of situations, and in the most specific, what's happening in Kazakhstan is 18% of all Bitcoin mining in the world was in Kazakhstan because they have low energy rates there, or had them. And so like basically that's not Kazakh people mining Bitcoin. That's fucking foreign investors just buying up plots, buying up buildings and pumping them full of servers, and then just having all their Bitcoin mining going on there. And it drove up not just the energy, but especially the energy. Like the whole cost of living in Kazakhstan went through the roof. Energy prices fucking doubled. And that's what the uprising is in response to, is literally fucking Bitcoin. But like, we don't want to like play this off as just being like a wild crypto thing, because I've said this before. Crypto is like a microcosm of capitalism, just like sped the fuck up. And like, that's a perfect example, right? In the last like couple of years, crypto moved in, all of the prices shot through the roof because of foreign investment, and now they're revolting against the government, against the state. So it's like, it's exactly what we've been describing.
Wow.
And I do want to reiterate what Sophie said, chat, about our official position, because it's not just like a throwaway line. It's kind of like the whole theme of this show is to acknowledge, and it's not because you don't have to be a communist for the inertia of the political situation of the world to be the inertia of the political situation of the world. You don't have to you don't have to subscribe to the ideology for the reality to manifest itself inevitably and necessarily. And the reality of our world is that it is inevitable that
literally
100%.
These are inevitable things. I mean, like, there's so many different scholars you can quote from, like, talking about like what revolution is, what rioting is, like MLK talking about rioting and how rioting is the language?
The language
there's all sorts of different like quotes you can probably pull from to like frame this, but it comes down to the fact that when you have a system that is so exploitative and it's so oppressive and it's depriving so many people, the wealth inequality and the concentration of wealth and so on and so forth has led to such a situation in which the vast majority of people are being deprived more and more of just basic necessities, dignity, like just like beyond the necessities, just dignity. Like if you see in the news, like the way in America, I'm an American, I can tell you that COVID here is like
hang on, what the fuck? Did you guys know she was American? Fucking hell. I can't do
as
this
an
show anymore. I'm fucking
American in these United States of America. The way that our employers are treating us is just like it's just despicable. And so this type of treatment, like forcing people to go to work. I know one of you in my Discord saying that like you were at work today and like now like a couple of your coworkers have come down with COVID and you were working next to them, like because you're forced to go back to work. Because this isn't it. You don't have to be a communist. You don't have to be anything for this to be a certain and have a certain inertia to it to lead to a certain results. So we are here to discuss that, to help guide you, our little pog champs in the chat, through it, and to try to make a better, try to be part of building that better world.
Right. So a few things. Mules just shared the footage of the horses, and we need to see that shit on the stream.
Where can you put in the?
It's in the links there.
Yeah. Sure.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
But the thing I'd like to lead on to is a statement by the socialist movement of Kazakhstan on the situation in the country.
Okay, cool.
So like maybe we can look at this horse footage, but while I explain. But basically, like all that shit's going on there, and I just wanted to read a bit of their statement because it's really really fucking good and cool. Basically, like we'll talk about it more in a second. Look at these horses.
Pretty cool, pretty based.
This is what Mule, you were telling about this before.
You don't mind being blocked off, right, y'all? You don't mind this whole thing in front of your face, right?
Whatever, it's fine. It doesn't matter.
Whatever happens.
What about the horse thing?
Yeah, what's happening here?
Yeah, like there's not a lot of information about it. It just seems to be someone has like filmed this happening, but I don't think they're actually like fighting anyone in this clip. I think they're just getting to a protest. It might be a little bit embellished that they formed a cavalry militia or something, but I mean it stands to reason. Like people working in farms and stuff like that, they're gonna use everything that they can. Cops always use horses in order to intimidate people, and of course, if the working people have horses as well, then that's sort of one up that you've got against the state, right? Exactly.
There's a lot of people in chat who are already talking about something I want to touch on in the way into our discussion, to what the topic of the discussion is today, which is kind of like people are talking about like they have COVID and they're being forced to work anyway, and we should talk a little bit about that after I read from the statement, which the link to the statement is just above what Mule posted. Nicole, if you want to put that up.
Wait, where is the statement here?
Just above
my post.
Mule's post.
Oh. Thank you.
Yeah. So basically, there's a group, the Socialist Movement of Kazakhstan. They're calling for international solidarity to the demonstrators and demands the withdrawal of troops from the cities. They've got a long statement. People can read it. I'll drop a link in the chat in a minute. But basically, it's pretty cool. Like it's people who know they aren't the whole entire group of people who are rebelling, but like that's kind of how this works. Like socialists are able to step in and say like, this is why people are upset. This is our demands, and people will get behind that when you make that kind of statement. So this is kind of what happens during a period like this when there's mass uprisings. And so they've made this kind of lengthy statement, but at the bottom it has, in this situation, there is a danger of violent suppression of all protests and strikes, and here it is necessary to completely paralyze the country with a general strike. Therefore, it is urgent to form unified action committees on a territorial and production basis in order to provide organized resistance to military and police terror. In this regard, the support of the entire international workers and communist movement, leftist associations, is also necessary in order to organize a large-scale campaign in the world. The socialist movement of Kazakhstan demands an immediate end to hostilities against our people and the withdrawal of troops from the cities, immediate resignation of all Nazarbayev officials, including President Tokayev, release of all political prisoners and detainees, ensuring the right for workers to create their own trade unions, political parties, hold strikes and meetings, legalization of the activities of the banned Communist Party of Kazakhstan and the Socialist Movement of Kazakhstan. We call on all the workers and working people of the country to implement in practice the demand of the executed oil workers of Zhanaozen, I think is how that's pronounced, to nationalize under the control of labor collectives the entire extractive and large-scale industry of the country. And there's a lot more that you could dissect there, and we're not going to have time for right now. Sort of, some positives, some negatives, but that's the statement that's been put out. Yeah.
The key takeaway is that it's quite clear that all over the world people know that capitalism is unsustainable, right? There's contingents in every single country. Doesn't matter where you go. Obviously, it's more common in countries in the imperial periphery. But yeah, you can see from this that it's exactly that. It's trying to galvanize the internal dynamism that these people have into following socialist ideals, communist
and actually
ideals.
forming and actually organizing and forming something solid, right? Like they were calling for a general strike. Like, this is a thing that a lot of people, I've even seen some responses to Red Planet episode 1. Like, people don't seem to think that a general strike or being in unions or whatever is effective. It's too much of a liberal step or whatever. But you even see right here people who are in the middle of a mass uprising, and their socialist group is saying, we call on everyone in the country to just lay down their tools, step away from work, don't give capitalism your labor until our demands are met, right? And that's absolutely it, right? What are you going to say, Tony?
I just think there was something Bipunk Anarchist said in the chat here. So what you mentioned about not being a communist to see the way politics are right now reminds me of what Kwame Ture said about Marx not inventing communism. It's the thing, right? It's the conditions under capitalism kind of give rise to events like this, and it's important for us as communists to kind of seize these moments, to kind of be talk to your friends about it and be like, hey, look, you see what's happening to us right now? I can explain this to you. I can tell you why it's happening and what we can do about it. And also kind of and even, Marx's whole thing about there's a specter haunting Europe, and that's communism or whatever like that. These things are they're building up everywhere. And it's the thing. It's the what is it? The Morpheus quote about the
oh my gosh, I tweeted about it. The one where it's damn it, Morpheus, not everyone believes what you believe. And he goes, my beliefs do not require them to. Am I right?
Yeah, absolutely. We were talking about it before stream, that's exactly what I was thinking,
It's the most definitional thing,
Yeah. It's we don't, obviously, when things like this happen, not everyone that is rising up is a communist or whatever like that. But as communists, we can be hey, instead of just having this one one little, one strike isolated from the rest of things, we can help people see things in the bigger picture and kind of I think it's a good time to radicalize people around events like this. And I think that it's important for people to see these not just as kind of one-off kind of looking at Kazakhstan by itself, what's happening there, but as a global thing about all these things are happening all around the world, and through things dialectical materialism, we can look at we can see why these things are happening and how they're all linked, and we can kind of provide guidance, I would say, from there.
And that's really big. Right? They're stepping into there. There's this mass uprising, and they're just being look, guys, this is what you are upset about. This is the stuff we should be organizing around. It is the definition of my beliefs do not require them all to believe what I believe, right? Because I'm just right about this stuff. I am just right about what's going to happen. And it also applies to what's going on this show right here. We're saying this shit is inevitable. We said that last week. In the time between episode 1 and episode 2, what fucking happened?
And I mean, that's the thing when we look at the lenses that we have to look at the world through like things like, you know, dialectical materialism, historical materialism, things like that. You can't, like, it's not like predicting the future, but it tells you, it like gives you an idea of like what the possibilities are and like the kind of like the direction we're heading. And you know, you can and you can make predictions. And it's like even on a like a smaller scale, you can see like, you know, before Bernie did his presidential run, there were things that he was saying were going to happen and all this kind of stuff about like what's going to happen to American workers, and it all happened. And you know, it's like this is this is a thing, right? Like you gotta be able to show people that what we're talking about isn't just like you know, it's not like just a way of organizing a government or something like that. It's like this is like, these are tools that we use to analyze, you know, like the world, labor relations, our, you know, our means our relationships to capital, our relationship to production, all these kind of things like that. And these tools give us foresight into what, you know, what could happen. It's not like, you know, we're not like fucking huffing the spice and seeing infinite futures or anything like that. But you know, like it is like they are tools to they are tools to help us make predictions about what could happen.
Yeah, they are, absolutely. And it's to clarify, like you said, like it's not predicting the future, but it also kind of can do that, right? It's like, so this leads perfectly into the discussion that I wanted to like bridge between there and our topic for the day, right? So loads of people in chat were talking just now about being sick with COVID or like being forced back. I saw somebody say they were forced back into work because they tested negative, but they just and they are sick right now, but they've been forced into work, right? So this is part of America trying to discipline the labor force, like discipline the workforce, discipline labor. We need to have a conversation. Maybe we'll do a full episode on this as well, but like about governments trying to discipline labor after the 2008 financial crash, right? America and the UK, tons of governments had austerity measures, and the thinking that like was public and kind of like people kind of understood as if it was like common sense, but as Gramsci said, like common sense is the ideology of the ruling class, like is like everything's tough, we all need to tighten our belts, and everyone kind of bought into that shit. But like if you know economics, that's fucking nonsense. Like the government can actually print money, they can do a bunch of shit if they want to, right? And
not only they do it all the time. Through quantitative easement. Absolutely. Right now, just for COVID, let alone other things like bailing out banks and just generally speaking, giving Elon Musk grants and shit, like whatever.
And so like austerity isn't actually a response to things being tight and there not being enough to go around. Of course it isn't. There's always enough to fucking go around. It's a response to people being driven out of work and having a moment to reflect, hey, maybe I could just not work. And they do these austerity measures to force people to go back into work. The cutting down of the welfare state, for example, is a really deliberate attack on people's ability to not be in work. And that's what's fucking going on with COVID right now. Loads and loads of people. Anti-work is the biggest growing subreddit, right? And it's a huge movement, and loads of people are realizing that they could not work and realizing that a better world is possible. And like, they're trying to discipline labor. Like a really good example of this is Jen Psaki said in December, she was asked about the economy being bad, and what they meant by that was people are refusing to take shitty minimum wage jobs where they're going to catch COVID and fucking die so that you can get your hamburger, right? and she was like, the economy will get better in January when people run out of their savings and they get desperate. Now, I want to pause on a moment just to say, like, admitting that you're a fucking psychopath, Jen, admitting that you're an actually evil piece of shit, like just admitting that American imperialism is like the bad guy of a movie, actually. But like,
that's like such a showing of hand, right?
Oh yeah,
surely, right? But that fits into what I'm talking about, disciplining labor. Like they are literally like treating the working class like misbehaving children. And like they'll get desperate, and then they'll do it, and like. Everyone here remembers, right, that they were promising a Build Back Better program, right? They were promising to like to improve stuff and give people more stuff after Trump's horrific treatment. Where's that gone?
Yeah.
Has anyone noticed that isn't going through?
Yeah,
it's because they're disciplining labor. They're going to turn towards austerity measures instead, and that's going to be maybe a topic that we can discuss more at length another time, like how to organize to resist that, because that's going to be a big like name of the game. But like one of the first steps in understanding it is mutual aid, right?
Yes.
Topic for the day.
Yeah, we got there. Yeah, like how our communities can basically look after each other without a need for the welfare state, without like relying on the state to give us these things, because they simply won't. As Sophie said, through punishment of the working class. And I just want to point out as well about the Kazakhstan stuff. Like, you just going back to that, you might find some people who are saying stuff like, people are mad because fuel prices have gone up, right? And trying to sort of like reduce it down to that. But it's important to remember there's a figure here. The average salary in Kazakhstan is the equivalent of $570 a month, and a lot of people earn a lot less. So it's exactly the same thing that's happening across the globe. People are just not earning enough money for a good life, basically. So anyway, back to mutual aid.
What's this? A little clip playing.
Yeah, what's this?
I don't know. Casey Explosion gave it to me, and I'm just playing it without audio, and I have no idea what this clip is, by the way.
Well, should we watch it?
I don't know.
A little surprise from Casey.
I think it's just a meme. I think it's just a hammer sickle meme.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Speaking of watching stuff, though, should we watch Tim's vid? Because I feel like that could be a good primer.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
Right.
Just Tim, really quick before we get too far off the topic, I wanted to mention something really briefly with regards to the demands of that we were reading from
the socialist movement in Kazakhstan.
The socialist movement in Kazakhstan. I remember I was part of the creation of the Chaz in Seattle. So if y'all recall the protests for that, I don't want to call them George Floyd protests, but the protests that really got sparked because of George Floyd's lynching. I was a part of a lot of those, and I remember that I was trying to get introduced. I was getting introduced to a lot of a lot of the concept that we're talking about. It was kind of my first real glimpse into those types of things. And so I remember we did a lot of protesting. The cops were just awful. We ended up protesting for so long, the cops ended up leaving the area, and they boarded up the precinct, and then we established the Chaz, and like the whole world saw that as this. Some people made fun of it, and I still don't know what to make of the entire thing. It was a really interesting experience.
We might do an episode. I have another friend who is involved with Chaz, and
really?
maybe we can get her on, and we can have
we would
back and forth.
Yeah, that'd be great.
It would be pretty cool.
That'd be super cool, yeah. But one of the things that I wanted to point out is I remember us all getting together at night and talking about the demands. We had this list of demands, and people were like saying, these are the demands we have, and announcing them and saying like, these are like defunding the police at this amount, and so on and so forth, like different demands. And I remember the thing that we held in like the leverage that we were like showcasing was like, we will keep protesting until. And sorry, that didn't work. And the reason it didn't work is we can have a whole conversation about that, but it's largely because there's no real teeth behind it. Like, people going out in the street and yelling about a thing is becoming kind of commonplace in America at the very least. And I'm not trying to undermine the usefulness of protest, but I do want to point out how much the teeth behind a general strike. There is no waiting for the public to empathize with your cause, to decide to start passing a thing because they feel so bad, or you're in the middle of traffic, so they have to move you, and that's getting annoying. A general strike is like, there is no other choice but to like agree to the demands that you're making.
Absolutely.
Because there is no other. It's it. And so I just briefly want to point that out. That I know that maybe some of us have some of our hope has been kind of squashed by perhaps the protests, because we thought something should have happened. We're making all these demands to defund the police. We're seeing that that's not happening. I thought that this would be enough. I don't really believe that there's any more we can do, and that's not true. It's not true even in the least bit. And want to make sure I say that.
Yeah.
And
100%. Yeah.
It's a lot easier to communicate things to your fellow, working people, like we're not getting paid enough and our quality of life is shit, rather than trying to break down the whole theory, like, you don't have to read Das Kapital to them kind of thing. You can just be like, yo, it sucks that we don't have a good life,
Yeah, totally. Yeah. I think that actually Chaz is gonna come up in the discussion for today a little later on, and we can bring that back around for something we've got later on, because which is the concept of blockadia, but like we get back around to it. Tim's video. Tim, what's your video about?
I just dropped it in our Shadwick About chat, by the way, the link. So it is about dual power, which we'll explain in the video, but it's basically like trying to see beyond just one-off acts of charity and things, and like growing mutual aid networks into long-term structures that we can then use to, I would say, to compete with existing power structures.
Yes.
For legitimacy, which is the video will explain a little bit more about that and how that, like, how it's happened in history, where the term comes from, and kind of like a little bit about what we can do, and some people that have done it in our contemporary times, and then I guess we'll just be talking after the video. We'll start talking about, like, different examples of that and stuff.
I want to make sure I get make sure we put a shout out in the chat for this. You can always do ! video to see what video. Hopefully if I did it right. Sometimes I miss it, but right now I'm getting it. ! Video for the video that we're watching. If it's ever not like displaying the right link, let me know, chat, but I try to stay on top of it. And so this is Tim's channel. I highly recommend subscribing. It is really not only super, like, it's super, super watchable. It's very cool. I'm kind of jealous of how talented he is and like pulling off all this like cool, like, it's such a fucking vibe. Like, it's such a fucking vibe. I can't even.
I want to say, people sometimes say that I have really good pacing with my videos because they'll be like an hour long, and someone will be like, "I felt like I was only watching for 20 minutes." And I have the opposite thing with Tim, but in a good way, where like his vids are like 12 minutes or something.
You want to get like super stoned or something.
Really dense. That like I'm just like learning so much. I'm like, that must have been an hour, and I look and it's like, oh shit, it was 10 minutes. What the fuck? My brain grew 3 sizes.
I agree.
I felt bad about this one just because the credits, the time that it takes for the credits, take up so much of the actual video runtime. But we don't have to play through them. But I might, if you're gonna play it now, I might just duck out and just check on my cat and make sure everything's
I'll make sure to get myself a cup of tea at the same time.
Let's do that right now.
I'm also gonna go to the toilet. See you later, bunny.
Okay, cool. God. So we'll put it up. All right. Exodus.
Oh. Chat, now they're all gone. Let's face it, you're all here for me, right? Right, chat? You're all here for me, right? Let's be real. I'm the star. Like, come on. Yeah. I'm here for the revolution. The revolutionarily beautiful streamer Bad Bunny. I plead the fifth. Tim's videos are like what's downloading Kung Fu into your brain, and the Matrix must be like, yeah.
If you've spent any time hanging around leftists, or if you're just getting into lefty stuff yourself, you might have heard the term dual power. And you've probably heard people talking about how important it is. Everyone's always saying, dual power this, mutual aid that. But what exactly is dual power? And why is it so important? Let's take a look at where the concept of dual power comes from, and how it relates to us today. So, basic stuff first. What is dual power? Well, dual power is a 100 card set of Yu-Gi-Oh! Trading cards featuring 6 booster packs containing 5 items. Wait, what? No, that's the wrong dual power. To learn about what dual power is and how it can be effective, first we have to take a short trip back in time to the February Revolution. Dual power is a term originally used to describe what happened in the Russian capital of Petrograd shortly after the first of Russia's 1917 revolutions, commonly known as the February Revolution. This is a really complicated period of history, but the cliff notes are this. At this point, Russia was still under Tsarist rule, which was basically an absolute monarchy, and although prior revolutions in 1905 had pulled back some control, they had only really shifted into something kind of resembling a constitutional monarchy, with a portion of its ministers to be elected democratically by the people. This new system hadn't really been doing so well, government corruption was rife, the people didn't respect the royal family, and the average worker still wasn't any better off. On top of that, they'd all been putting up with strict rationing due to the funneling of food and resources to their army out fighting the First World War, which had resulted in numerous protests and riots led mainly by working class women, which eventually became the revolt that forced the Tsar to abdicate. In his place, the existing parliament, known as the Duma, was set to expand in duty and take control as a provisional government. At the same time, the Petrograd Soviet was emerging. Soviet is just the Russian word for council, and the Petrograd Council was formed by representatives from all different lines of work, most of them having been involved with various earlier groups that worked to protect the rights of workers, especially in regards to their exploitation for the war effort. So, at this time, we had these two dual powers competing to be seen as a legitimate government, the parliamentary ministers of the provisional government, and the brand new Workers' Council, the Petrograd Soviet. So dual power was a term that Lenin used to describe this particular moment in time. Before the later revolutions and civil war where the Soviets seized power, this particular period was important because it showed the Russian people that if they all banded together, they could create a new system without having to rely on any relics from the old one that had held them down for so long. So what does this mean today? How does it help us organize in our lifetime? Well, aside from the historic events referred to as dual power, these days the term has been adopted by modern leftists to not just describe those events, but to describe the tactic of creating a power structure to compete with the existing capitalist system. Whereas during the February Revolution, both powers were relatively fledgling, these days leftists living under capitalism have to play catch-up with the immense existing power structures. The key difference with dual power versus conventional activism is that it's about building long-term structures to make people less reliant on existing capitalist ones. So this could be through doing anything from setting up food cooperatives as an alternative to supermarkets, or unionizing your workplace to give more power to the workers. But the long-term goals should always include keeping everything owned and controlled by the workers, otherwise you're really just starting a business. Keeping the bigger picture in mind is also why it's super important for organizations to link and build together. A union of public transport workers by themselves can be enough of a thorn to influence legislation, but joined together with a teachers' union, a nurses' union, and a renters' union, that's basically a general strike. A coalition of strong unions has been the beginning of plenty radical shifts in government, and is the core of many ideal leftist societies. One effective tactic, if you lack the resources to start your own organization, is to join an existing group, council, or union, and push the conversation left by beginning discussions about issues that affect the group and how they can be solved through things like worker control or industrial action. This can be a good way of connecting the dots between workplace issues and raising awareness of our common class interests in general amongst your peers. Remember though, that the conversation shouldn't end at your own door. The goal here is to set long-term plans for structures that can support people outside of the existing capitalist systems, to the point where people can't help but see the competing power as a viable alternative to the status quo. And once you have a broad base of support and the mechanisms in place for change, you can start pushing for that change. But these are big plans and they require a lot of hard work, and this video is only a relatively simplistic explanation of the concept. So if you want to learn more about dual power and associated tactics, here are some books to check out.
Is this where the credits start?
Oh yeah, everybody.
Hell yeah. Let's fucking go.
That's so fucking good.
Thanks for watching, everyone. And thanks especially to Niraj Radkama,
I think
Damus
that's like
Sophie,
one of the
BC.
best things to take away from it. The where you say like this isn't something that should end at your own needs, because I feel like that's a really important thing to point out when we're talking about mutual aid networks, because I think something we were going to talk about was GoFundMe's, wasn't it?
We were like, a subtitle for this is like ending GoFundMe's, because we just have this fucking, I mean, in America, right, you have this huge fucking culture of just like anyone has any kind of medical emergency, they have to have a huge fundraiser to get their needs met, and we don't want to have that situation, right?
Ideally it wouldn't have to even be a sort of a reaction thing. Like shouldn't have to react for it. It's more like we should be able to prepare for it. You know, and so we can rely on these networks rather than relying on something that's not there, that the government isn't providing for us.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And that's like the thing, right? Like, there's so many like, a lot of people, I think, confuse a lot of mutual aid stuff with just like you know, like trading, like one-to-one, you know, being like, okay, well, you know, like, I need this thing that you produce, so I'm going to trade with you right now. But it's more about like, you know, having like these mutual aid networks that cover everything you need, so that when you need it, you can get it, and you don't, like, it's not like with the assumption that when, you know, like when it's the other way around, that you'll just be able to, you know, like you'll be able to provide it to them and all this kind of stuff. And it can be, you know, like just anything, like not just yeah, I don't know, like I think it's like a lot of people kind of get a little bit confused about that, but we can get into that kind of.
Well, I mean, we can if you want to, we can touch on it. If you want to touch on it right now, because I found this, believe it or not, Reddit post that actually did a pretty good job of explaining what you're saying.
Tell us about it?
Yeah. First of all, Reddit. I love this website. Yeah. Have you ever heard of it?
Normal.
It's great.
Oh god, don't do this to me, no. Fuck.
Should we do the soy face and point at the Reddit?
So. I found this post on like mutual aid, what makes mutual aid different from charity.
That's the thumbnail.
And like somebody gave a pretty good explanation, but then they said something at the end. They said like the easy way to tell if something is charity or mutual aid is to look at the balance of power / resources between participants and to see if everyone involved benefits. If it's unequal, one person is just giving but never receiving aid, it's probably charity. If it's equal and everyone involved is both giving and receiving aid, it's probably mutual aid. And then I'm pointing this out because somebody explains why that's actually not correct. Says, I feel it's important to add that mutual aid isn't a direct exchange, though. You don't have to benefit immediately from your aid.
Yeah.
It's based on needs and whenever they occur. For example, I can produce an excess of bread with my homies in my grain mill and give it to the local residents. At some point, maybe my mill breaks down and the carpenter who got food from my excess production comes along and helps me repair it.
Right.
And then they say like, even with the extra steps, I give the flour to the bakery, for example, they give excess bread to the distributor, gives it to the carpenter. I never directly give bread to the carpenter, but he still comes along and helps me because we're a community benefiting from the mutual aid as a whole. It's kind of like a family, like, you know, your family, you're not you're not like,
this is kind of
it's just like basic social stuff. Like, but
it's funny, isn't it?
Can I do a quick book shout out? I was going to say like, Graeber, two Graeber books, right? This one's The Dawn of Everything. The other one I've recommended before is 5,000 Years of Debt. Graeber is an anthropologist and an anarchist, or was, and he's the absolute OG. He has such good stuff to say, but like one thing that he comes back to again and again is like how people before colonialism, largely just across the fucking world, like not a monolith, right? Not everyone lived this way, and he explores that in great detail. But like a lot of people just treated everyone in their immediate surroundings like family, and we're just like, you need that thing, here it is. Maybe sometime I need something, and I know I'll get it from you, and that's fine, you know. It's like mutual aid is our natural way of living, because we just like see people with need something, and we're just like, there you go, sure.
That reminds me, I've got to dig up some threads and send to you. I haven't read the latest Graeber book, or the last Graeber book yet, but I know some people that have, some like historians from down here, one Maori and one another guy who's like super well versed on like Pacific kind of history and like social structures and stuff, and there's some really good threads about you know, like some things that Graeber said and how he doesn't touch on stuff in like Polynesia and stuff, but some of what, you know, our structures kind of back up what he has said a lot.
Right.
Super interesting. But yeah, like the whole thing about like treating everything like an extended family, that is like a huge thing down here. For a lot of Pacific cultures, but particularly for Maori. And it was also like kind of part of the key to our colonial resistance for a long time as well. Just, you know, like there was like a lot of stuff where there were like these kind of disparate factions, you know, like fighting back against the crown, but because of their all, you know, because of what was essentially like expanded mutual aid networks, their resources were able to move a lot quicker than, you know, like you get like the British people or whatever like that, where they're like having to trade for things and do all these things, or even like, you know, like they're like, okay, well, we could get bullets from this guy over here, but it's cheaper for us to get them from, you know, get them sent over from Australia, so it's going to be a couple weeks till we get those or whatever. Right. Whereas in, you know, Maori were just like, okay, cool, well, you guys need food over there, well, you know, sweet. And there's even like a lot of old interactions with, because there was like a lot of one of the earliest kind of groups to start settling in New Zealand, aside from Maori and European, was like Chinese, and you get like, you know, there were like Chinese like farmers and, you know, like market gardeners and stuff eventually that were forming mutual aid networks to help other Chinese immigrants kind of get by, and then they linked up with anti-colonial and, you know, like well, you know, like separatist Maori movements, and kind of like, you know, joined their mutual aid networks. So there was like, you know, like people that were resisting the crown on one side being fed by, you know, like these like Chinese mutual aid networks and things like that. And I think like, you know, that's
we
something
said this last episode, right? Like we will be learning from Indigenous people and people who have the most experience resisting these systems, because they've been doing it for hundreds of years. This is a perfect example. Like mutual aid is no different.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's like there was at no point was it like, you know, like these weren't like run, or actually some of them were run by communists, but, you know, like these things weren't run by communists, but there were just things that happened because they were like people's, I guess, kind of like reactions to what was happening. And it's kind of like, you know, like we do see these, you know, like what some people might call like naive, you know, like mutual aid networks or naive communist moments or things like that coming up. And I think it's you know, like for Maori, it's like, you know, like it's very in line with like traditional beliefs and all that kind of stuff. So it's like there's so many things to draw from where we look back at, you know, cases in history where it's like, you know, like there were Maori establishing mutual aid networks, or like, you know, things like that, that it's kind of like, you know, it's kind of like, it's not even like, it's hard to separate it into like, this is in a relation to, you know, like they did this in reaction to these things, because it's just like the way that it is, you know, it's like they were doing it beforehand anyway, like we were always been doing it, which I think is kind of interesting. But yeah, it's like the idea of the extended family is also something that I think we get into. This is something that I wanted to talk about when we were talking beforehand about the way that a lot of like what a lot of people would consider like street gangs and things often kind of sprung up out of like mutual aid networks or like community defense networks and things like that. And I think there's like so much, I mean, this like ties into a lot of like the whole thing about like a lumpen proletariat and their, you know, like their political kind of or their, you know, like their revolutionary capabilities or whatever like that, which a lot of people you know, even Marx was kind of like, you know, didn't really believe that that was going to be, well, he didn't believe it was like a very like that there was much to explore there or whatever. It was like Fanon who came later, who was actually like, no, it's not, or whatever like that. And I think like there's some really great examples of just, you know, straight up people that you would say like, oh, this is like a biker gang or something like that, forming like actual like mutual aid networks. And even like, like I said, like a lot of them come from this when you look at like Black Power, we've done here Mangukaha and the Mongrel Mob and stuff, and they're like literally formed by communities that were like pushed out and, you know, like kind of on the edges, like on the periphery or whatever like that, and forming together in extended family networks. And, you know, like a lot of it comes from their kind of indifference to legality as to how they ended up getting into like, you know, criminal enterprises or whatever. But there's even like plenty of them with our like COVID response down here. There's like been so many gangs that have become like COVID-19 mutual aid networks and things like that, and it's wild. Like,
and
we're seeing like
I said like there was reporting early on when Italy was hit really bad with COVID that the mafia was doing a better job of providing for people and like helping people stay indoors by like just giving them food when they needed it, because the Italian government was just like stay indoors, but it was just like not helping anyone. But the mafia was being like, here's some food, now stay indoors.
And we're getting the same thing, you know, like these dudes like from the Mongrel Mob who like, I mean, I've got like a lot of friends in like the Mongrel Mob and like Mangaka and stuff like that, and I don't consider them scary because I know them. But I mean, like, if anyone just jumped on Google and looked up Mongrel Mob, they'd probably be like, "Oh shit! Like these guys are very scary."
That's how I feel like so many of my friends now. I'm like, I would never talk to these people. Like 20 years ago, I'd be like, And now I'm
says
just like,
a lot about
I
that.
hope so.
Like setting up like vaccination clinics and everything like that.
That's
you know?
fucking
Like, it's
sick.
like,
No.
Holy
yeah,
shit.
yeah, it's like
Mule,
based as fuck.
Mule, go ahead.
No, yeah. So like that's
sorry.
why capital and neoliberalism is so invested in alienation, right? Because they don't
Yeah.
want people to speak to people like this. It's like, oh my god, you should be terrified of these like, you know, horrific indigenous people or like horrific black people. Like, oh my god, they're rioting and all this. And you see all of that all over the news because as soon as people realize, hang on a minute. You know, our differences are you know, completely fucking irrelevant here when we're all suffering, right? Do you know what I mean? In different ways, but we are still suffering against capital together, and that's why it's so important to fight against any kind of alienation in any way. So
I wanna,
you can absolutely see that.
I want to add to what you.
Can I just jump in? Oh no, so you. Sorry.
No, I just want to add to what you said because with a brief personal story. My apartment building is like a bunch of people that really don't talk to each other like most apartment buildings, but I've been trying to make more of an effort, you know, as a communist. I remember someone in my building, you know, asked for some soil one day because I was gardening. And I remember like seizing up. She's like, well, is it okay if I take some? And I remember like seizing up and being like on edge with this idea. This is when I was still trying to like give things away to the neighborhood, but somebody coming to me and asking for something, I felt like on guard, like someone's trying to steal something or something like that.
Yes.
I just really want to briefly point out, because you touched on alienation, that this is part of that. This is that alienation, and also with desperation has led to this like mine, and maybe I'll give you something, but only if I'm like super secure in myself. But like otherwise, I feel like it's an attack on my like sovereignty or something. It's an attack on like my resources, and this is the type of like fear-based attitude that's been like shoved down our throats that we have to address directly, and we have to acknowledge, I think, that this exists. Because if we're like, hey, everyone just get together and give each other shit, I think, I don't know, I think we need to like talk about the elephant in the room, that we've been kind of like groomed to be afraid of like giving to people, or
stuff.
1,000%.
Yeah.
1,000%. I offered a guy who was going to get evicted. Sorry, Soph, just because this is on the same thing. I offered a guy who was going to get evicted in my apartment block to like come and stay at mine whenever you like. Do you know what I mean? I don't want to see someone get evicted. I don't want to see someone sleep on the streets, because this guy was disabled, right? He had like a fucking a spinal injury, and he has like a whole setup in his house where he like uses it to like straighten his spine and stuff, and like sometimes he's late for work, and of course he got like, you know, sacked because of that, so he couldn't meet his rent, and then he's gonna get evicted. And I'm like, yo, just stay at mine. But then immediately my like fucking stupid ass white guy ape brain, you know,
it's not even ape brain, it's like neolib brain,
isn't it? It's that's what it is, you know. And I was like, oh my god, like shit, like what if he just like stays there forever and takes advantage of me and blah 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 blah. And it's like, whoa, hang on a minute, what is this like defense mechanism that's happening? Those are the things. You're right, we need to like fight against that thinking so much. It's so ingrained in us.
Okay, sorry.
Well, I wanted to say, it's okay. No. I wanted to say, like, I think this is totally in line with everything that you guys are saying already. And I wanted to, before we get like too late into the stream, like define literally the fucking topic, right?
Yes.
Like charity versus mutual aid. Because I think a couple of people in chat have touched on this as well. We started off the discussion with this Reddit post, like, what's charity, what's mutual aid? And it's literally exactly what you just described, Nicole, right? Someone in chat said charity is an industry like of damage control in capitalism. That's not it. Charity is an industry of convincing us there isn't enough in capitalism. Like the fact that the existence of wealthy philanthropists giving stuff generously to others is there to convince us that that has to be done, because there simply isn't enough to go around. And so like people have to entirely survive on the generosity of these philanthropists. Like if like there was that kind of back and forth in the thread that you read about like ways to tell if something's charity or if it's mutual aid. And I think one way that you can tell often is like, are the resources being like, is allocation of resources being decided upon by the people who need them? right? Like that's not everything, because literally there are some charities who will just give things to people, but like a vast majority of charities are like, the thing the money goes towards is for us to buy this thing or build this thing that we've decided these people, this is the best way to help them.
Right, and also it'll
Instead
look
of
good
like
from a PR point of view
exactly,
as well.
yeah.
Yeah,
like,
that's
you look
getting
at
a
like
little more.
the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation or whatever, and it's all about like, we've developed these things, we've delivered these vaccines, we've built these schools and whatever, and it's just like, well, why couldn't you just like not steal all of the mineral wealth from the same region that you're fucking giving these things to generously, you know? But yeah, I think that's it. Like that idea of like, are they in community with one another? Because that was like in the thread there, they were like, the people who, what was it? They said something like, the people who are giving and getting involved are also themselves like affected by the issue. And I think that they're kind of clumsily trying to describe people being in community with one another. That's literally the most important thing. In charity, you have, like a better off party and a worse off party. And the basic notion of it is this generosity, which is a lie and serves a purpose within the capitalist system and all of this. And in mutual aid, you just are in community with one another. That's the most important thing, is the community.
And I think I've used the term mutual aid so many times incorrectly now that I'm learning more about it. Like when we did that mutual aid, well, I shouldn't talk about that particular stream because I think it's a little more complicated with like everyone trying to help each other. But like, it's not, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's not mutual aid if I'm giving money to homeless people. Right, that's charity, right?
Well, yeah, you could.
Because I'm not homeless. I am deciding to give some of my wealth to someone with no expectation that they'll ever. Because although I do feel that fear of homelessness that we all feel, I don't identify with like homeless people as being homeless.
You're not in community with them.
I'm not in community with them, and I'm certainly not giving them money with any sort of like expectation that this is going to create some sort of like community between us. I'm just trying to like help.
You could argue on a technicality that it's like a form of direct action.
Action, sure, but direct action is oftentimes conflated with mutual aid, which I wouldn't say is necessarily the same thing. No. I would say it's probably the best case scenarios for charity. I don't think all charities Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation type. It's not. I wasn't trying to like look good in front of a camera. I'm just doing something that I feel I believe in. But ultimately, it's not I'm not building a community, and I'm not saying it's not worth it, chat. I'm not saying that you should like try to be some purist who goes like, I'm never going to give money to homeless people or something. That's not what I'm saying.
No, it's not about that. Yeah.
When we're trying to build, we're trying to build networks of support so we can actually like rely on them, and we can not have to rely on landlords and employers. It's not going to come in the form of me taking the money I receive from Amazon and then giving it to a homeless person, because that's involving my employer. That's also me not in community with that homeless person.
Right.
Yeah, it's a different thing.
And another good way to tell is just like, if you imagine a crisis, right? And it's like, will the charity still be there if like the state fucking collapses, right? And it's like, well, no, right? If the charity you're talking about is a big fucking organization with like paid employees and all of this shit, and then the state collapsed, it would not be there anymore. If the charity is you giving your money to a homeless person and then the state collapsed and things got hard for you, you probably wouldn't do that anymore. And even then, like, is your money good even? Shit like this. But if it's mutual aid, if it's like, me making soup for Tim and Tim comes and fixes my roof or something, right? I'm just imagining Tim doing a big manly job around my house somewhere. I'm getting
honestly,
a little fun.
It's like, are you practicing communism or not? You can't practice communism when you give someone money, because money is
That's why we watched
money
this video,
requires the state. It requires the state. It requires capitalism. So maybe that's
why we just watched like Tim's dual power video, because it's like we may be talking about mutual aid here, but we have to understand that we're just talking about scales of the same stuff, right? Yes. You've got being in community with someone. You got just like the way you treat your immediate family. Your sister's like, "Can I have your hairbrush?" And you're like, "Yes." Right? And then there's mutual aid. You're building community with people, and then there's dual power where you're relying on those systems that you've built. And then there's communism. It's literally just scaling up the same stuff.
Yeah. It's like, so, you know, like giving money to a homeless person or whatever is charity, but then providing, providing places like a network where a homeless person could just go and get the things that they need. That's kind of, you know, like that's the goal. Not saying that giving money to homeless people is bad or anything. Like it's totally like, you know, it's also good.
Yeah,
but,
absolutely.
But yeah. Like the goal is to, you know, so that the homeless person doesn't need that money to go and, you know, buy food or whatever. Anyway, but I mean, like, totally just give homeless people money, regardless of what they're gonna spend it on. You know, like it doesn't matter. Like
you talked about legality before, right? And with the gangs, and like that's a great point, right? Is like if homeless people want to like have food, we've touched on this before, right? If businesses are throwing away tons of food, when homeless people try to take that food, or anyone tries to take that food, that's been criminalized. Like we can't just take that and give that to people who are hungry because of the logic of capital. And it's like that's another place where like you just have to look past that shit to the basic human need, right? It's like I'm not saying that mutual aid needs to rely on breaking the law. I'm trying to say that like again, mutual aid is just a basic human like satisfying each other's needs. Like people need stuff. And you just get it for them.
You know, it's so funny. It's like Tim is talking about like how this is like a pretty obvious like thing that indigenous people have known about for a while, but like white people are like, listen, let me tell you something. Imagine a world in which I'm like giving you something and it's like we're just like each other and it's not a big deal. It's like,
well, that's kind of what Marx did, right? Like Marx had all these you know, ideas given to him about like indigenous cultures, about how well they live together, and he was like, yo, I got this great idea for a book, like, you know,
check this shit out.
I've got a lot of thoughts on this. I got a lot of thoughts on this because there's a discussion that I've had a lot of times. A lot of people, like, I've seen a lot of really, a lot of takes from people being like, oh, you know, like Marx just like stole all his stuff from indigenous people,
we talked
like,
about this.
you know, appropriated it or whatever, which I don't think is true at all. And I think it's like what Marx did was he was analyzing the relationships between, you know, like people and production and all those kind of things. So what he did is he was looking at these other cultures and going like, wow, look at their, you know, relation to production. And, you know, like these people, like what did they do pre-capital when they were faced with this problem, sort of thing, like that. And it's kind of like, you know, like he wasn't saying at any point like these people were doing this and we should just do that or whatever. He was basically using them as case studies. And which I think is like, you know, like, I mean, it's obviously like it's a smart thing to do, you know. It's like instead of like you know, you have other people that think about like these hypothetical situations, like what would we do or whatever, whereas Marx was actually looking at these nations and being like, this is what happened, and you know, blah, blah, blah.
Which is exactly what's so good about Graeber. Like Graeber goes over the exact same stuff.
Yeah, I've got some really interesting threads for you. I need to remember that.
Okay, nice.
Anyway, I did see someone asking in the chat, was it Empire 28, is it appropriative to learn methods from indigenous populations and use those lessons for other causes? I don't think so, but it depends on what you're talking about. Like, so if you're talking about like, you know, like learning about the way that the people wherever you're from traditionally kind of like, you know, like took care of the area or like, you know, farmed or whatever like that, it's probably always going to be good to know about. The only thing that I hate is when you see people that would like, you know, like they'll read a book on like, you know, like traditional farming or something like that, and then they'll decide that like they're, you know, the expert now, or they'll like, you know, start a business and they'll be like, oh yeah, we're like doing, you know, like as long as you're not being a fucking weirdo about it, like and it's like try and say like if you're doing something, you know, if you're doing something that is kind of like based on or kind of like kind of iteration of some kind of like, you know, like local indigenous nation or whatever, you should always kind of like, you know, just like acknowledge them and what you're doing or whatever, even like, you know, just getting in touch with them or whatever, but you know, just being like, hey, look, I'm doing this inspired by these people or whatever like that. And then I mean, you know, like obviously different cultures, different nations have different ideas about this stuff, but I think most people would be like, oh yeah, that's cool, you know, like as long as you're not like going out there, you know, like putting feathers in your hair and pretending to be us, like right. I mean, that's a thing, people do that, but
that's in the fucking so we've all got copies of How to Blow Up a Pipeline, and like it's a good book, but there's a fucking cringe ass bit where Andreas Malm is talking about this action that he was involved with, who called themselves the Indians of the Concrete Jungle, and it's like, it's back in the 2000s, but it's not okay, man. Like, don't do that. That's not cool. Like, and that wasn't. They didn't even learn a method from Native American people or anything.
Oh, so
it
was just
Swedish
straight
anyway.
up like just racist.
It was just weird racist shit.
Just
like
laughing,
pretty fucking cringe. Besides that, the book's very based, but like that was pretty cringe. But I wanted to say, like, the queer community, like Tim's touched on the indigenous, like various indigenous communities and Maori people, Maori gangs, and like I wanted to say how like the queer community, or queer community is also not a monolith, but like queer communities around the fucking world are almost always societies of mutual aid. Like in the exact same way where we're just pushed to the fringe, we just like have fucking nothing. And so we just like take care of each other as a basic thing. Like trans people especially, I put the link in Shadowy Cabal, but like this was one of Mule's links actually, Trans Mutual Aid Manchester. Like that's a specific example of an organization, but like I think that a lot of queer and trans people just live in community, like in mutual aid community with one another by default. Like I've done like hormone injections for people before because I've been taught how to do intramuscular injections. Like not everybody has, and it's also hard sometimes because like for HRT a lot of people have to have their injection in their ass, so it's like you can't like necessarily like reach around and inject yourself in your ass. Like you know, that's an example of like somewhere where I take a skill I've learned and I just help out people because they just need that help. You know, there are people who like swap clothes, there are people who just like provide for each other. You'll also just end up with a lot of shit, like just like when people are squatting, often you just go into a housing squat and like half of the people there are trans because they just like because like massive rates of homelessness. And again, it's just like an approach where people just have to like meet their needs, so they just do it, right? Mule, that was your link. Oh, sorry, Tim.
Oh yeah, sorry. I just wanted to point out I was like way behind on chat or whatever, but Autotrot is plugging Maori Marks by Simon Barber and has dropped a link in the chat. It's very based. Simon Barber fucking rules. You know, like I was introduced to his work through Emi Rakati,
Nice.
who I think maybe studied under him, or there's some link there. But anyway, Maori Marks, very based. It's in the chat. If you
we should get Emmy on to talk about prison abolition. That would be fucking rad.
Yeah, fuck yeah, we should. I keep meaning to ask her.
I'm glad someone is at least trying to keep up with chat. Shit.
I keep rolling up just to see, but yeah.
What I miss, y'all talking about me? You all talking shit?
Oh yeah, we were saying you're really cool. Yeah. So no one say what we were saying. So Mule, this was actually your link. The Trans Mutual Aid Manchester. So like you know more about this than me, I guess. Like, I've said about the general situation, but this is a specific organization.
Yeah, so I'm gonna read a bit from the link itself, but so I heard about Trans Mutual Aid Manchester because I've been to a bunch of trans rights protests in Manchester, and just kind of you can discover things like this just by because I found out about this through Twitter. In fact, no, it wasn't Twitter. Sorry, no, I tell a lie. It was Instagram. And you know, this is the power of online leftism, really. You know, online leftism is like, you know, we're trying to say like, come on folks, you know, we need to actually go out and be doing stuff. But yeah, you can find good things by just kind of like clicking around and having a look and see what's going on. And Trans Mutual Aid Manchester, it says here, we are a trans-led radical mutual aid group set up to help trans and non-binary people in Greater Manchester support each other through direct action. We run a small mutual aid fund. So that's the, you know, the fund itself, like as I was saying, everybody pays in and then sometimes people take out. And it says here, giving our community a way to help each other out with essential costs. The fund will provide assistance with things like electrolysis sessions, buying binders, travel to GIC appointments, emergency housing assistance, and other essential transition related costs. So all these things, you know, are already like obviously quite trans focused, but things like, you know, essential housing, like this is like, it's already reaching a lot of different areas, right? So this is how effective one mutual aid network can be, when it's set up properly, obviously. I'll just read the rest of what they've got going on here. We raise money via fundraisers and direct debits, which will then be distributed to applicants following a meeting to allocate the funds, led by a trans and non-binary panel who will manage the anonymized requests. Now, that sounds a little bit to me like
charity.
What we were talking about before. Yeah, people making the decisions.
Also
for
money.
But yeah, but
you know, money will always change the dynamic as well, which is probably something we should
because money
talk
has to be sourced from capitalism. You have to
exactly. That's the basic issue, right?
This is like such an epiphany for me when Sophie, I think we were talking about this off stream one day, but you just painted it so perfectly for me. You were talking about how
like
these
we are always
GoFundMes,
having cool conversations,
super
chat
cool
around
that's right,
are really fun and interesting and cool.
We save the cringe stuff for this. This is the cringe.
Sometimes we laugh about chat behind their back.
That's true. Remember that one chatter? Don't mention their name.
Yeah, no.
Oh,
yeah.
I remember
right here, right now. I see
them. So embarrassing. But you remember that other chatter? You know what I'm talking about.
No, go on, Nicole.
Okay. But you I think it was shortly after I did the Transmutual Aid. Well, I called it a Transmutual Aid fundraiser where we raise money for basically trans people and their GoFundMes and stuff. And you were telling me, I forgot how you put it so perfectly, but it was basically it made me wake up to the reality that mutual aid, and tell me if I'm wrong on this, is not constantly being a slave and then coming back and then just exchanging money, because we are always still reliant on these systems. Like a landlord, me giving you money for rent means that I am going to my slave job, getting money, and then you are giving it to a leech. That, it just helps to maintain another day, which I'm not saying that that's a bad thing, by the way. If you're giving people money through their GoFundMes or whatever, this is oftentimes life-saving stuff. So life-saving things are good because it's life-saving, right? But it's the difference between, are we building a foundation that can excise us from the reliance on leechy landlords or
I think what I said was
whip cracking
slavers.
Thing
I said was free people. If you give people the shit they need and then they don't need to go work in a job anymore, they can spend all their time helping other people, and then those people can spend all their time helping other people, right? And it's on and on and on, and it would just be fucking exponential from there.
And that's that's the long game, as you say. It will excise us from the systems of capital. But obviously, to begin with, we're going to have to source things from capital, sadly. Do you know what I mean?
Right, at the beginning, but
the way I've been describing it a lot recently is you have to some degree be willing to jump before you're pushed, because I'm not telling folks here to all go quit their job right now and become really unstable and blah 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 blah, but if you can take any moments that you can to be investing into community, right, and investing into these systems existing around you, right, when shit gets worse and when you don't have what you need, the community will be there, right? Whereas if you're not putting the effort in ahead of time and then you're pushed and you don't have your job or whatever happens to you, it won't be there, right? And it's just it's just these are things we can look at that are doing work to protect people at the very edge. But it doesn't have to be that. We could just be doing that as our basic way of life. And if we were all doing it, there would be so much more than everybody needs. And we would just be having a fucking great time.
Yes.
Yeah. Chloe says, shifting around the same $3 doesn't address the issue, but an adhesive bandage to help in the immediate moment. Which, by the way, nothing against adhesive bandages needed. Sure. But because I really want to make it very, very clear that this stream right now is not shaming people for asking for money, not shaming people for being please help me, I'm getting evicted. No. You're not part of, you're not a bad person for doing that. The system is bad for putting you in that situation, and this stream is here so we can start to build a system that will stop us from having to like beg each other. I don't know about you, Chad, but it's fucking demoralizing. It's fucking demoralizing.
Well, that would be like the conservative argument of like, oh, you're a socialist, yet you live in a society. So, you know what I mean? So
Curious.
It would be similar to that.
Yeah.
Another book recommendation here that I got ready for this stream. Since we were on like the queer community and the way that the queer community already exists in a community of mutual aid with one another, is Towards a Gay Communism by Mario Mieli. Really cool book, and it's just basically like it's just about like bringing in queer theory to communist theory, and like it's a no-brainer when you like start to think about it, but like one of the great things that this kind of explores is like that queer people already just know how to do communism in most cases. Like you'll absolutely always get your bootlicker queers, your preppy fucking Tory queers. They'll be there, but they're a fringe to our community because our community is on the fringe itself. And so everyone here is used to just taking care of with
oh my god, you're so right. When I was doing the trans mutual aid, I was like amazed that like, well, I don't want to call mutual aid. It was now I know it better. It's like more like a charity. But I saw like so many people that I knew did not have a lot of money. Like I know these people. They're in my community. They've asked others for money. They've asked others for help. They're like working wage slave jobs, and they were the first to donate. And I'm like, I was astounded at like, it was such an aggressive outpouring of trans people just like showing up and like being there. And I'm like, and I knew they weren't rich. I mean, chat, chances are the trans person you know is very much not a rich person. Like very much not so. Statistically, not at all. You're right. So it was really amazing to see.
There was like a thing over here as well where we had like a couple years back. One of the things that Emmy, who we've mentioned on the stream a couple times now, we've definitely got to get her on for a thing, was involved
she's so based
in a thing about kicking the cops out of Pride. A lot of cool people were really active in that, and it kind of split the Pride festivities into like the actually like cool interesting stuff, and then just like the weird corporate bootlicker kind of stuff. Like there was like this schism or whatever. Absolutely. And there's like, you know, like the kind of lame corporate bootlicking stuff, like they're getting like, you know, they get like money from all these businesses, and they're like, you know, like your business can get a rainbow tick if you pay them a certain amount of money.
Right.
And shit, you know, just like dumb shit like that. And then there's like the actual cool stuff run by the cool people or whatever. And so but the way that like the bootlickers or whatever like pushed back was like, you know, like they were saying like, you know, this isn't how we get acceptance, you know, like this isn't how we, you know, like this isn't basically how we kind of become part of the, you know, the hegemony or whatever like that. And it's kind of like this very, like this, like really shitty thing where they're trying to say like, you know, you're not going to be safe if you do this or whatever like that. And I think
like the language of the oppressor, they're like,
and I think there is like there's some, like I noticed it was like a generational thing where there were a lot of people that, you know, like they fought so hard to get accepted or whatever, and they think this is their thing, like they got to hold on to this or whatever. But I think they were really like hugely outnumbered by people that were just like, well, actually we're just going to be queer in our own way.
You know, I hate to interrupt here, but I think we actually have a guest ready to come in.
Okay, very cool.
Also, everyone, please welcome to Red Planet here we go. Welcome to Red Planet, our guest, Luna Oi. Luna, you there?
Oh, this is not in order. I didn't rearrange it.
All right, you can rearrange. Luna, can you hear us okay?
I'm not hearing you there.
No, not hearing anything, Luna.
Yeah. Oh, you're muted, Luna, actually.
Why can't I
is someone muted, Luna?
Or... We promised there would be technical difficulties, and now it's happening.
We are delivering. But I was gonna say something. Might as well just keep chatting. So really briefly, if we could, if someone in the chat, Goody Two Shoes, maybe we'll give you like a gold star or like 1,000 bunnies or something, because that's our stream currency, to compile a list of the reading recommendations that I'm not going to provide reading recommendations for the most part, because I'm like still one of those people that is like needs to start reading more, but like for the rest,
Nicole's one of the people I'm sending the books to.
No, I appreciate it. It's like I need to like get on it, because but for the rest of everyone on the stream, if someone in the chat could like compile what people are recommending reading wise, if we can have that, that'd be great, because at the end of the stream, I think maybe on our Twitter, red_planet_TV, we can post a list. Would that work?
Yeah, that would be.
You think
We
so?
can absolutely do that. 100%. 110%. Yeah. I have. Speaking of book recommendations, since we're waiting for Luna to fix her technical problems, I wanted to point out a couple of quick things to like point people in the direction of mutual aid. So first of all, there's a magazine I'm subscribed to from the International Anarchist Federation called Organize 95. And this is just a really cool magazine. It's called Organize. This is issue 95 of it. I will definitely shout this out again. But like, if you want to just like know what's going on like a lot of radical fronts, this is a great place to start. Like they reported on Iamata, which like I think Tim mentioned that last time, and then I said that they'd mentioned it. And here they have an interview with the Bristol Sex Workers Collective. That's a fucking really cool interview to read about. But like they have loads of cool stuff to say. Another one, and I will recommend this again, is the Squatter's Handbook. This will be available in like any anarchist bookshop you can find. And this is the you can't really see, but this is the 14th edition, because in the UK like law around property rights can move fairly fast, and like so they update it and republish to make sure they're up to date with the most recent stuff all the time, and so that like people can have all the information that they need. There's sections in there to do with immigration, to do with like property guardianship and why you shouldn't do it, how to squat, like how to like find a place, how to protect it, all of this shit. And like it's a really, really cool. So that's the Squatter's Handbook, and that's Organized magazine by the Anarchist Federation. And then I guess just this is I meant to shout this out after Tim's video, but like if you want to read about dual power and the theory behind it, you might want to pick up some of my boy Lenin.
Yeah.
Are you a Leninist? Does this mean you're a Leninist?
I said just before the stream, swinging from one thing to another. I've got the Anarchist Federation, Lenin, but like they're both really good resources, and people should check them out.
It's almost like what we were saying before about not necessarily needing to have, you know, this definition of, you know, exact communism in order to back a movement and
exactly,
right? You know.
The book that I read for making.
I'm gonna hop into the waiting room and try and figure out Luna's stuff with her.
Oh yeah, that's a great idea.
So you all carry on without me.
Okay, sounds good. Sounds good.
No worries.
Yeah, when I was making that video,
I
read.
I'm not changing. I'm not messing with the overlay again. I'm not touching it.
Don't mess with it.
I'm not. I can't do another rearrange. I'm gonna cry. This is the stream for now, chat. All right, this is it.
This is the stream.
Just
for
deal
now.
with it.
This is like arty.
This is very like
abstract.
Yeah, I meant that actually. This is an ironic expression of this is capitalism. Just think about it.
This is what capitalism seeks to do to us, folks. Don't let it happen. Don't let it happen.
It seeks to make our faces much larger and split them into different sections.
Yeah.
Anyways,
oh, wow. Okay.
let's do a fun little check-in with chat. First of all, chat, how are you liking the show? Let's see some smiles if you like the show. Smiley faces if you like the show. Frowny face if you don't like the show. Mods ban the frowny faces.
Ban them straight away. Send them to the gulag. That's it.
Wow, look at there's so much happy.
There's a wide peepo happy as well.
Oh, I love the wide ones so much. I don't know why when they're all squashed and wide.
Yeah.
It's so cute.
I don't know what a lot of the little the connotations of a lot of the little emotes, you know, so like people always posting like various peepos, and I'm just like, it's cool.
Yeah. But you have BTTV, right? You have BTTV, so you can see them, right?
Oh yeah.
Okay. I didn't have it for like years when I was like years into my streaming career. I was just like, what are poggers? I was like, this is a fun word. I had no idea. At all. That's just like a symbol.
That's why I find it so funny when people say it like in real life, you know?
Yeah, for real.
Imagine, you know, like you're talking to a friend and, you know, you say something and they're like, wide people happy.
Okay, that's extra.
Okay, you lost me at friends. I don't know what's going on with that.
What's that? Conversation.
So you're touching grass and you have a friend.
You end up as a streamer like saying these things super ironically, but then they become part of the lexicon.
That's where Henlo. That's where Henlo came from. Henlo's such a fucking meme now. Like, I started off with me like raging at the Reddit cringe. I'm like, oh, Henlo. Oh, I am dog. Oh, whatever. Like, I has cheeseburger. And I did this whole like hate when like a stream, I was just like hating on it. And I'm like, okay, what if I was like a person who said like Henlo? And then I just went with it. And now it's emotes and and we have a whole screen for it. Like, it's like a whole thing of my chat now. People are like, I look forward every week or like every day to come to your stream and get my Henlo back, and it's just like,
Yeah.
it's so ironic, chat. It's just so sarcastic and ironic.
It's the cutest way to say hello.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah.
I did see a meme a while back. It was about something like, I can't even remember what it was about, but it's about, you know, when you like just meme about something so much that you're not sure when it is a meme anymore, or if you actually like
milking cows and stuff.
Yeah, no, I'm pretty sure it actually was about like some fetish stuff. Like it was probably about like, let's not go into it. Yeah.
Well, it kind of reminds me of like the furry community. And not to say that that's like an ironic thing, but I know that a lot of trans people experiment, like they'll find themselves in the furry community because they're just like, I just want to dress up and, you know, just like, and it's like kind of like jokey, memey fun. And then, or maybe even like, drag. That could be like, oh, I'm just doing it for fun.
Related, yeah.
And then all of a sudden you're like, actually,
actually, I'm really into like, you know, getting some wolf dick. Yeah.
Before
I wasn't saying that.
Luna pops in, I'm just gonna pop out just for a second, and I'm just gonna check on
That's fine. It's fine.
Oh yeah, you go check on your real life furry.
I like that Tim is chopped up, and then Mule is so big, and you are Sophie.
Yeah. Well, my head is like me, and like you're also me. Yeah, and like most of my face is Sophie. Yeah. And Tim was Luna, but no longer.
Yeah. Someone said that like the guy with the tattoos is so cool. I'm like, you know
Tim's
what?
Tim's pretty good.
He's fine. Okay.
He's fine.
He's fine. Don't let the cool tattoos, handsome, bassy awesome
beard.
voice,
hammer and sickle necklace.
Just super based, like chill as fuck. Don't let that just ignore that. He's just whatever. All right.
Looks artsy fartsy.
Artsy fartsy. All right, listen. Just because some of us don't have any tattoos doesn't mean that we're less cool. Although I do want a tattoo so badly. I want to have one. I just don't know what I would get. I don't know.
You don't know what you get?
Every time I want something, I'm like, maybe I should get a V for vegan. I'm like, okay, then I'm going to be cringing at that in like a year. Like I'm vegan forever, but I'm not like, I don't know.
It is about the cringe, because I think about this a lot. Like at stages in my life, I've been like, okay, I want some 9 Inch Nails lyrics on me, right? But that is super cringe, right? That's like hella cringe. But then, like, you know, I was thinking of it this way, because someone pointed out to me, like, your body is a canvas, right? Like, in terms of
your body's a temple that God resides in, and when you scar it with tattoos, you are scarring God.
Yeah, and you go to hell forever.
Yes. So okay.
That's right. Yeah. So yeah. But like, you know, yeah. If you think of it in the cool way, which is that like, yeah, your body is a canvas and you can do whatever the fuck you want to it, really, actually. Then maybe it's about just displaying some like super cool art that you saw. Like a lot of people have like, you know, I don't know. I think a lot of people get like egotistical when it comes to tattoos, because they like have this extended ego of themselves. Like they're like, oh, I like X video game, right? And I'm gonna get that tattooed on themselves. And some people may see that as cringe, but they see it as like, oh, well, that's who I am, and it represents me and stuff like that. Tim, I'm glad you.
Tim, could you like move your body in a really uncomfortable position for us? That'd be great. Could you crouch down? Could you shove your face into the bottom of your frame? Yeah, and now can you lean? Can you lean to the left? Like, can you lean left? Can you push? Can we push you left? That's what I'm asking.
Is it that way?
No, that's the wrong. Other left.
No,
the other left.
the other way.
That perfect. Great.
I can't tell because I think I can't tell if my webcam feed is reversed.
Perfect.
Yeah. Mine's reversed, but it's not actually on the stream. Yeah, Discord just does that.
Yeah.
So I said left because I knew what direction, but you were like, no, she doesn't know what she's talking about. And I don't know, we can unpack that later if you want off stream as to why you just don't believe women when they say, could you move a little bit to the left?
Right.
It's a little bit upsetting.
Like, fake ally.
Very fake ally, right?
Talking about Joe Biden.
We were talking about tattoos. Someone said that the tattoo guy is super cool, and I was just like, awesome. I don't know. Somebody said that, and I was like, yeah, he's cool, but like, just relax.
Thanks,
like he's like
random chatter.
Yeah, he's
the first ever stream I went on. I screenshot. I don't know where it is. I screenshotted it, but like it was a big one. I think it was like with the surfs or something like that. This is like years ago, and some random chatter said, "Not gonna lie, I think this guy's hotter than Hassan," and I like screenshotted it. And I was gonna like print it out and put it somewhere. But you know, when you're having a bad day and you.
But you're hot. I didn't even notice. Sorry, I just don't like register these things. You know, I'm just here to talk about like communism and stuff.
Yeah, I'm here to talk about serious dialectical materialism. That's it.
That's right.
Anyways, yeah. So with regards
to how's everyone going?
With regards to tattoos, am I the only one who doesn't have any tattoos on this fucking show?
I don't have any tattoos.
Okay, good.
You don't? I thought you would. Like, yeah. I feel like.
I really, really want.
Wait, Tim. I don't, because Tim's a tattoo artist. Chat it. I don't know what like kind of like understanding and like transcendence and next level you get as a tattoo artist, but can you like see people and like if they say they have a tattoo or not, could you like figure out what kind of tattoo they have by just like their vibe? Like that's a tramp stamp. That's a fucking like like the little like thing around your arm, the chain or whatever.
A tramp stamp.
Different. I would say different people.
I return.
Oh hey.
Okay.
Oh, are we good?
I guess.
Hello.
Yeah. Luna, you'll have to turn your camera back on. Yep, she's turning it back on. We did it.
Woo! We did it!
Yes, finally.
Yay, Luna! Oh my gosh! Hey!
We're gonna change the names around now.
Yeah, no. Wait. That's not Sophie. Hold on, I got this.
Sorry.
No, you're fine.
Do
not apologize.
Don't worry about it. Don't worry. We had a massive problem.
Okay, Tim, you can put your chair back up if you want.
I can put my chair back up now.
Hey, Luna, why don't you introduce yourself to the stream? Tell us all who you are.
Okay, hi everybody. I'm Luna. I'm so happy to be here to meet and talk to all you guys. I'm a Vietnamese communist living in Vietnam, and I make videos about Vietnamese food. How to teach you how to cook Vietnamese food. The traveling vlog, and of course I talk about political stuff.
Turn up those two sliders on the left.
Got some technical stuff.
You can hear me.
Wow.
Yep.
Thanks, EJ.
Hey, EJ.
Okay, so you can hear me better now, right?
A little bit. I'll just I'll boost everyone and then I'll turn everyone down. We do that in fact.
Oh, okay.
So we just got a new mixer, and this is the first time we work with this mixer on Discord. That is why everything is so
That's
cool.
Oh my
always an
god,
issue,
what a time.
Yeah. I know about that.
Okay, so yes, I make videos about Vietnam, and so very nice to meet you all today.
It's very nice to meet you. I've been following you for a while. You're very, very cool. And I'm
Same here,
super psyched to have you on and to finally meet you. Hi, nice to meet you. And it really, I'm sorry, I'm just very excited that you're here. You are our first guest for this new show. Which is super great. And like, I don't know, I really appreciate you being here. And I'm just going to stop talking because I'm just really excited that you're here. That's all I'm going to say.
Gush away.
Gush away now. You're so cool. You're so cool.
So Luna, the topic today is charity versus mutual aid. And we already talked a little bit about that distinction, but we were also talking a bit about like examples of mutual aid and how they build up into dual power over time because you like the people just providing for themselves and for each other. And I thought you might have some examples to talk about that.
Sure. I live in Vietnam, so I mean, I was born and I live here for 30 years, and I've seen so many times like the mutual aid of Vietnamese people between Vietnamese people did help each other a lot. I was born in a village in the center of Vietnam, and we got like terrible flood every 2 or 4 years. And the thing is that I can see is that like Vietnamese people, when any bad things happen like that to us, the very first thing happened was we got together and we helped, and we actually from a very grassroots level, we have like all kinds of unions already. We have like a women's union, we have a communist youth union, we have a workers union, we have a laborers union, we have a farmers union, something like that. So it is like union is very, very, very strong in Vietnam, and anything happen like that, whenever anything happened, we got together and we get it done within a week. So it is a true story that a few years ago, there was a terrible flood in my village, and I called my mom. My mom told me about it. I was like, "Oh, I'm sorry, mom." A week later, me and EJ went back home to my village to see my mom, and the village was totally fine. And I asked my mom, like, wasn't like flood last week? She's like, everything's done.
Wow.
So it turned out to be like,
Don't worry about it. We fixed it. It's fine.
We were talking about this earlier about like how like white people have like a hard like we have such a hard time understanding this concept of like when something goes wrong, or even if it doesn't go wrong, you know, like like you're saying for you, like for Vietnamese people, you come out and you're like, obviously we help each other and it's all fine, and then for white people we have to like, okay, so let me get this right.
Yeah.
When things go wrong, you help each other. Like it's just such a like we've been trained to believe that everyone's our enemy, and it's it's such a cool thing to hear your perspective is so naturally coming.
You're
like,
so weird.
True.
You're weird.
Like
actually
white
true.
people explaining to other white people, like, okay, so like sharing. It's like when you have a thing. Okay, like imagine this cup. Like I could give this to you.
Wait a minute.
What's the catch?
Wait, Luna, are you understanding?
Who's gonna pay for that?
Yeah, exactly.
There's like a really similar thing down here in times of like when there's like a disaster or something like that. We often get a lot of kind of mutual aid networks centered around what we call we have marae, which is like kind of so you have like your iwi, which is your tribe, and then an iwi is comprised of hapu. So hapu are like sub-tribes. And then so hapu have their own marae, which would be like kind of like the center, like where, what would like way back in the day you would have said this is like a village or something, it's like where all the main like kind of where the buildings are, where it's like the meeting house, all those kind of things like that. And there's been like so many times where it'll be like, like a flood, or even in times like with the pandemic at the moment, where these kind of like rural kind of like disaster responses have been all handled by, like these small Maori mutual aid networks centered in marae. And, and you see them, even like there's ones marae in cities that are like housing the homeless, like literally every night, like feeding people, doing all these kind of things. And a lot of people like, like a lot of people have this weird assumption about like, oh, if they're doing something, it's only for, it's only for Maori or whatever like that. But like, I've seen that like, like over and over again, like people from all walks of life being saved by these kind of like these small initiatives or whatever. And even like, like even like there's like educational programs run by, like these like kind of grassroots, grassroots Maori organizations where they're like getting kids computers and things like this, and it's like, it's so wild because it's like, this is like what a lot of Maori consider like, the natural state, like our natural way, te ao Maori. This is like kind of like the way that we do things or whatever. And then, like people, you always get people like kind of critics or whatever being like, oh, but who's going to pay for this? Like at the end of the day, who foots the bill for this? And it's like, man, it's just like, it doesn't matter. Like if there's like a debt that's racked up or whatever, it's like, it's like, yeah. But like who, if it doesn't get done, who pays then, like who pays? Like what's the human cost if it doesn't get done, right? Like,
well, we have like areas of the United States, because I'm an American, like I mentioned earlier. I know everyone knows at this point because I keep mentioning it. But like, yeah, it's shocking. I know. But as an American, there's parts of America that are still dealing with the same. I mean, this shouldn't shock anyone. Like we have like immense, like America might be one of the most ridiculous nations in that we prop ourselves up as like the best thing ever. We have like the wealthiest people, and then we have the most horrendous living conditions and the most almost comically depressing like scenarios, like just like somebody dying of like thirst in front of a Starbucks or something. Like it's just like so like come on, like it's just so ridiculous.
It's like comic book villain.
Yeah, it's like comic book villain.
Yeah.
Like I know in Flint, Michigan, the pipes are still contaminated. People are still not able to drink clean water in Flint. People are still being poisoned. And what Luna, what you're saying is like when people show up to like when there's a disaster, it's like all taken care of because everyone gets together and just fixes it. It's just like it's really, we need to keep having these conversations because especially as like white people are so self-centered in our whiteness that we think that the only things that we've ever thought of at the top of our head is the only way that it can ever be. And that certainly, you know, where's the, like someone in the chat was making a joke, but like this is honestly what it comes down to. A lot of white people just insist like something has to have a profit motive for there to be like any motivation. And they've been taught these things, but then that same whiteness leads them to believe that nobody else has any good ideas. And so it's like, it just creates this like, you know, it paralyzes you.
When you do hear about it, they always take it from that really like entrepreneurial angle, you know, they'll be like, this school kid, you know, like worked really hard to save up all this money to pay off his classmates' lunchtime debt, and it's like, why do these kids have lunch debt?
It's supposed to be a heartwarming story.
This is horrific.
Or something.
So he can help pay the lunch debts for his classmates. Like, it's a heartwarming story. Don't you feel it?
I thought it was really interesting that you mentioned when you were talking about Luna, when you were talking about the floods and stuff in Vietnam, and then how in Vietnam there are already these unions, like a bunch of unions already, right? Because that's what we were talking about, chat, earlier, about the dual power structure, right? I don't know how that relates to Vietnam and stuff, but like that is an example of how people coming together in unions can then be the force that the people rely on rather than the state, right? And I assume that's kind of what people want to do in Vietnam, right?
The thing is that like the system in Vietnam is totally different from any system in the West that you ever heard of. So I hope that you can all have like open mind, and I'm gonna give you a deeper analysis about how the system is working in Vietnam. Please open mind.
Everyone, put a smiley in the chat if you have an open mind.
I'm ready.
Let's see it. Engage.
So here's the thing.
Or
the people and the government of Vietnam, we work together as one entity. And don't forget this, the government of Vietnam is formed after the Communist Revolution. It's not a bourgeois state like the US. So the thing is that like when we have women's union, communist youth union, and workers union, laborers union, we got encouragement from the state, from the local government to form all of that. And actually the local government will give people advices when we want to start a union like that, and we got our right protected by the local government. And when the, like, for example, as the flood happened, okay, of course, the first thing we do is that our people go together and help. But at the same time, the local government will also send like military or policemen or volunteer, all kind of volunteers to go help and instruct, like, because they have the information today. Hey, instruct, like, this spot has the worst flood. Okay, everybody, if you have a time and effort, go there and help. Okay, and another thing is like we trust the local government so freaking much is that like when somebody wants to give donation, the first thing we will look for is not like NGO or anything. We'll go to the fatherland front and donate our money or food and clothes or medicine there, because we know and we trust them that they will know who's and where gonna need what the most.
Right.
Yeah.
So like we work as one entity like that, because like we have the trust between each other. It's totally not like the EJ told me about what's going on in the USA when like a natural disaster happened, and I was shocked when I learned that 100%. They are still homeless people, lost their house because of Katrina.
Yes. It's people are still suffering from Katrina. It's like it's been so long. Like I was in high school when it happened, I think. Like it was just and by the way, I'm pretty old. So that's a thing. That should shock people that's taken that long.
Luna, I remember you I can't remember if it actually was you or EJ saying something about like when the pandemic started, and I wound up going around to like everyone I knew and just telling them this, because I was like blown away. It was just like, in Vietnam, when the cops see that someone doesn't have a mask, they're like, here's a mask.
Here's a mask.
Yeah.
Like, for us, it's like the cops are there out there like policing people. Like, I could tell the story in more detail, but like, on the first day of this year, my girlfriend and I were in just a local public park at night, but like not even that late, like 9:30 p.m. And a police helicopter, I'm not kidding, a police helicopter came low and like stayed there to intimidate us out of a public park, and then like hovered over our street and watched us until we went in our front door and didn't leave until we'd gone in our front door. Like I can't.
Yeah, just
this literally happened. Like this shit is hard for us to imagine in capitalist countries, because for us the state exists to mediate class tensions in favor of the ruling class. The idea of a state that exists for the people and to help the people is like fucking mind-blowing to us, right?
Yes, this is alien to you, right?
Yeah, literally.
Yeah.
So if you reckon,
and also like the flood. Well, let me finish real quick. The government of Vietnam even give people free land.
I remember your tweet about that.
Yes, right.
So
I remember your
so
tweet about that, Luna. I'm so
And
sorry. People are so
fucking mad at
ridiculous.
you about it.
Yeah.
And it was just
Free
like,
farmland and then
literally
free
can't
land for
imagine it.
houses.
Oh my gosh. Sorry, I'm just having a
people
whole
were
like,
just wild.
Twitter is
Go on,
No,
wild.
wait a minute, but I'm a petty bourgeoisie. I'm a
Yeah,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
have like
yeah.
a plot of land like twice a
Which
year.
one's you, petty farmer? Yeah.
I secretly
Um,
own like 500 square
Yeah, that's
kilometers
right.
bigger than New
Because they didn't
York.
understand measurements. Yeah.
Yes.
Go on, Tim. What were you gonna say?
All I was gonna say was, do you think that the cops in the helicopter were watching a Vosh stream when they were checking it out? But,
No, I think they tuned into Red Planet. I reckon those,
Yeah,
are some
yeah.
really,
Can
those
I-
are actually some really based cops who are watching Red Planet right now.
Oh, yeah,
They were
that's
like, we
right.
just want to wave. We just want to wave.
All
Like,
cops
hi,
are bad
They were
unless
like, oh shit, that's
you
Sophie.
watch Red Planet. Right.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Also, just I also wanted to talk about Luna briefly mentioned about when there's like a emergency or whatever, not going to give money to the NGOs and all that kind of stuff, which I think is a really good point, because there are a lot of there's a lot of NGOs out there that are very exploitative, like very, and especially in
Oh,
times
boy.
of disaster. I think Plastic actually mentioned earlier up, because Plastic in the chat, who they studied architecture, about how some of the structures that they build, these NGOs build, are just so terrible that they end up like not being fit for purpose, and they have to be torn back down and rebuilt and everything. Anyway, and I've heard of similar things, where people will like they'll be like, okay, cool, all your houses were wiped out, we'll build all these new houses or whatever like that, and there'll just be these shitty things that will leak and fall apart. But like, if you look at the contract for the people that built it, they have an existing relationship with the NGO, and it's just this like money spinning thing where they're trying to like, the NGO works to as an organ to like funnel capital through to these developers and things like that. And it's like, it's actually like, you have to approach all of these things just with like extreme skepticism, whereas like the goal is with a mutual aid network that like you just like you don't have to worry about it because it is like it's a horizontal structure. It's not like someone up the top choosing where the money goes and they're funneling contracts here, there, whatever, blah blah blah. Like I just
Therefore,
remember
like
that.
rich people do write off taxes too.
Absolutely,
totally,
yeah.
Yes.
No, we were saying this earlier. Like, charity exists within capitalism, like for several purposes, and none of them are really very good. Like, but one of them is like to convince people that there isn't enough, and so people have to live off the generosity of people who will give money, and like it's a virtue to give money. When actually, and then all the focus gets put onto like billionaires who are giving money, actually like proportionate to their earnings. It's the working class who give all their money, not the ruling class.
Something Nat said in the chat as well, and she said, and they often just exist to serve imperialist interests.
Totally.
Dumping surplus food from imperial countries and crashing local food markets while paying American businesses to do it. That's like a huge thing if you look up the way that like the whole like secondhand clothing donations to places like Africa, and the way that undermines garment industry, like local garment industries, and all that kind of stuff. And there's like, we get that throughout the Pacific as well, like small islands that aren't able to develop their own independent industries and things because of the way that the New Zealand government kind of, does things like this, keeps them on a leash, and different NGOs that operate throughout the Pacific kind of just exist as organs of this, like kind of Pacific imperialism.
Yeah, I think it's really worth focusing on that for a second. It is absolutely a feature of neocolonialism, the way that Western countries will absolutely like use what they call aid and they pretend is charity to like control the rest of the world. Like
God,
we all know, right, that like America makes way too much corn, and it's not just because Americans love corn syrup, ha ha ha. Like it's because they put that corn into other countries, like as foreign aid packages. But those countries can also grow corn and often also like have corn industries, and that's exactly why they're doing it. Because if the country is just flooded with American corn, then their own industry just can't do shit, and their country is just like completely devastated by the economic impacts of that. No, it's a thing. It's a
legit thing.
Corn and like cotton, I think, is another one America does loads of that with. Like Tim already said, like the garment industry being undermined by like secondhand clothing donations. Like,
Matt's just put a link in the chat to an article about that actually in Ghana.
Yeah, Galdem are actually. Yeah, I know about Galdem.
Galdem's a good resource.
Really, really good.
US does it with wheat too. Wow.
Oh yeah, and there's heaps of stuff in New Zealand. We do that with like a lot of dairy products and things like that, and also like and just actually most of our kind of like agriculture stuff is and it's like this wild thing where like there's so much focus put on the political interests of farmers and things over here, whereas like they are a very small portion of the country that do not like it's like less than 5% of their produce is stays in New Zealand, and it's kind of like this weird thing where it's like we have this idea of so all these like farmers are just like feeding the nation and all this kind of thing like that, but a lot of it is like they're producing goods to send out to the Pacific. There's like a lot of stuff like tinned foods and stuff like that actually kind of undermine their local farming, local agriculture, and all this kind of shit. And it's like it's wild when you really get into it and you see that all this, like, you think of as charity growing up, you think like, oh, we're helping out all these smaller nations and stuff. And it's like, no, we're absolutely, like, this is the leash. Like, this is just what the leash looks like.
Absolutely. That's such a good way to put it.
Sophie, real quick, when you said the state exists to mediate class tensions in favor of the ruling class, remind me of this is so off. Do you remember that?
Oh my god, the squirrel!
The squirrel. So I did the really quick chat on my Twitter. I'm friends with I'm a freak. Okay, I'm a vegan. I love animals. I'm a freak. Just expect things like this. Okay,
a freak.
I befriend crows and squirrels and rats and stuff. I'm a fucking.
This is maybe for another time, but literally. Everyone should be befriending crows because crows will fight your enemies, and like if every communist befriended crows, the cops would never be. I'm just saying. I think we're gonna cops tried to come get you. And they get fucking swarmed by crows. I'm just saying.
We're gonna see more and more people.
Cops have no aim. They're gonna snipe their little like
crow
heads.
Mule's right.
Alternatively,
it's the official position of the show that we will see people befriending crows who will then fight cops. It's not something we're endorsing people to do. We're not telling people to attack cops with crows.
I mean, befriend crows anyway because they're based animals, but like not for that specific reason. Right?
Okay, I want to quickly play so chat can see this because I did a contest of like whoever responds with like I said reply below with something you wanted me to tell to Fox. I named the squirrel Fox because it's tail is very poofy. I'll pick a reply and tweet a video of me telling them it. And of course, I chose Sophie's because, come on. So,
state exists to mediate. Honey, did you know that the state exists to mediate class tensions?
I never seen a squirrel in real life.
Really?
Yes, never seen a squirrel in my life. So cute.
Very cute.
You can feed them like a blueberry and they hold it like it's a fucking pumpkin. Like they have tiny little hands and they'll just like hold it up to their head like it's a fucking pumpkin and just like take huge munchies.
Alright, that was
a
fucking love animals with little hands.
Off-topic thing, but I just wanted.
Yeah.
Alright, I'm done.
But yeah, I think the fundamental idea we're driving at here is about people providing for each other, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Somebody in the chat asked if someone can.
Somebody in the chat.
Uh-huh.
Here, go ahead.
Yeah. I just say like somebody in the chat I saw asked like how does the local government in Vietnam help? And I said like, well, this is because to me it's so obvious. But yes to you because you don't know because you don't live in that same system. So I'm gonna answer real quick. Is that like
Luna, you're really just rubbing it in like what shitty places we live in at this point.
No, we have freedom.
So,
that's true. I forgot about the freedom. I forgot
to lose your house.
Yes,
Yeah.
thank you.
Freedom for us.
Thank you.
I forgot about the
Please be
freedom. I
respectful.
did forget about the freedom.
Thank you.
Yeah. And democracy.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
Vote
right.
red or blue.
I keep all my freedom and democracy just here off screen. You can't see it, but it's just right there. Like it's right there.
So the government of Vietnam is like, it's a symbol. First, they give advice for people if they want to form like a union, or like cooperative, agricultural cooperative. The local government will give you advice about like what you're gonna do and what you need to do to have like official permission from the government. Is so easy. And like, and if you have that, receive that and their advices and their help, and then you actually form a union or cooperative, you will have a lot of like what you call it, like help from government, like giving you free advices every time you need to. And if the cooperative, like agriculture cooperatives, they will also help you find customers and also help you deal with the best price ever. And if you have anything problems with the like companies who buy your products, you can just go and help or ask for help from the government if you want to sue them or something. It's very close like that. Also like natural disasters, the local government will collect information and will send like soldiers and police and volunteers to go to help. And then they will also like direct like all the farmers union, women's union about like who and where needs help the most. And then redirect, like, of course, like for flooding time, the central government sent like tons and tons of rice for free to the local area, and local area will redistribute free rice to people like that. And at the same time, Vietnamese people donate rice, food, money, clothes, medicine, and then they also redirect all the help like that. And like, because the local government, they have the information, but they don't have the human force. So they work closely with the unions in local area to redistribute that. And just like as one entity like that. So that is why when last year, a terrible flood in central Vietnam, and lots of my audience said like, hey, Luna, do you want to set a GoFundMe for Vietnam people in flood? It was like, no, we don't need to, we're fine. And then after like 1 or 2 months, we're fine.
That's
like
so
that.
good.
Imagine living in a fucking country where they care about people. Fucking imagine. Jesus Christ.
I literally cannot actually. I literally have cannot imagine.
I always attribute like the ending of my doomerism to Sophie just saying to me once on stream, yo, just like don't be a doomer, right? But I think it probably started with watching Luna's videos, because when I first started watching your videos, Luna, and obviously learning about Vietnam in its, you know, socialism and stuff, it was like, holy shit, this is a place where all the things we want to happen are sort of like happening. Like it can exist, right? It does exist.
It is possible,
you know, right? It's possible. And I think that's so fucking important for people to learn. And I cannot recommend Luna's channel enough, honestly.
Yeah,
like I've
really cool.
used your channel before to like explain what communism is to people. Do you know what I mean? And explain how like you know, states can end up actually serving the people rather than oppressing them. So yeah,
right,
100%,
absolutely.
100%.
Yeah. On the topic of flooding, this has actually reminded me. I actually talked about this on DJ Mule's channel before, but Bill Gates, wonderful philanthropist who everyone loves, wrote a book called, well, he didn't fucking write it. Sorry, I know someone who like knows his family. He didn't fucking write it. It was ghostwritten. But there was a book published under Bill Gates's name, which is called How to Avoid a Climate Catastrophe. And it's a horrible fucking manifesto for green like neo-imperialism. It's just a fucking manifesto for why Western capitalist countries should like enforce dominion over the rest of the world. And honestly, like if you want to read the exact counterpoint of it, right? Climate Leviathan by Joel Wainwright and Jeff Mann. I recommended it before, but like they like what they're explaining in that book, Climate Leviathan, is what Bill Gates is like actively advocating for. But he does. But I've said this to Mule before. There's this like sob story he comes up with to talk about like a poor Appalachian farmer who like can barely afford to pay their bills, because a lot of farmers are like the poorest people in the world, and he tells this basically hypothetical, like this Appalachian farmer, all his land gets flooded, and then all his grain is rotting, all his like he can't even sell his like cattle or anything because he can't get it to anywhere because all of the infrastructure is flooded over and all of this stuff. He just loses everything, completely bankrupt, and has to sell the land that his family's owned for generations, right? It's like, oh, so sad. But then you examine some of the like context around that outside of the book, right? It's like okay, so first of all, we're imagining this farmer's going to go away, maybe get a job in a city or something. No. That farmer's going to work on the same fucking land for the person he sold it to, because that's the sickness of fucking capitalism. It's like he's going to be like working to pay rent to the fucking capitalist scumbag who bought his family's land
in Hawaii,
right?
Unfortunately,
and the most shocking, most upsetting context you can learn is the biggest agricultural landowner in the United States is Bill Gates. So in this hypothetical he's fucking telling, literally he would be the guy who's buying that shit. And I
wonder if he read it before he published
right?
it.
Like I said this before to Mule, but like in that hypothetical, the reason that Bill Gates wants to buy up that land even though it's flooded is that different areas will flood at different times, and like he can just like he can keep it profitable because he can just like grow stuff on the land that isn't flooded if he owns it all. And the same could be true if all the farmers worked together in community with one another, right? If they were working together, it would be fine. It doesn't need to all be owned by Bill Gates and for them to be working as fucking debt peons or serfs to Bill Gates. Sorry, I was just reminded of that. I actually had a question for Luna. You've mentioned a women's union a few times, and there are two women in the regular hosts of Red Planet, and I'm kind of considering unionizing against the male hosts. So, like, can you tell us more about? Can you tell us more about the women's union? Because I'm really curious about that.
I hate men, so I would also love to hear about this.
So,
same to be
about in Vietnam, this is how we organize. Believe it or not, even though we are a poor developing country, but we are super organizing people. Every street or every about 200 households will form a community, and we will democratically vote for the community leaders, and everybody can just volunteer to be that group. And also all the women in a community like that will form a women's union as a grassroots level, and then higher from the district level, all the unions got together into a federation of women's unions, and then all the way up to the national level. The National Federation of Women's Union is one of the very powerful part of our political party, political system. It's more like anarcho-syndicalist style like that.
Yes. Okay.
Yes.
That's really cool.
Because we have unions together, form.
Oh wait, hang on. But I heard, but obviously Vietnam will hate anarchists, right? You don't do anything like anarchists ever, any of the time, right?
Yeah.
That's what I heard from really smart
communists
people.
and anarchists, they just don't get on. They never get on. It's never happened.
Yeah. So a women's union, we care for women. Everything that relates to women, such as domestic violence, is a big thing in Vietnam.
Okay.
Yeah.
And they protect children's right and mother's right. So one of my cousin, when she got divorced last year, and she had horrible husband, and her child was just 2 months old when they got divorced, and her husband, because coming from rich family, so they just trying to take the baby, and they did take the baby. And my cousin was the one actually look for the help from the local government and the women's union. The women's union was the organization who gave her advices and introduced lawyer for her, and she did win, and she took her baby back, and she got divorced. It's something like that. It's something that like our daily life, we will need their help, and they did help. And another thing is that like when the COVID-19 happened and we had like in Da Nang, where city where I live, we in strict lockdown. We cannot go out of our house at all for a month. So women's union in every community together, they have a connection with farmers in rural area. So they order and they buy really cheap food because they directly from farmers in rural area. And many times poor farmers donated vegetable to people in the city because we are in strict lockdown and we can't go to work.
Yeah,
so like
awesome.
Bring vegetable and food from local area to the city and redistribute it. And it just become like a force that will help whenever we need and focus on women and children. That's it.
Yeah, it's awesome.
That's fucking rad.
Yeah, I also noticed that Rob Rousseau is in the chat and said Bill Gates, also the top shareholder behind the conglomerate illegally building pipelines on Indigenous land in BC, Canada right now as well. Just like,
oh yeah.
Hell.
So like I unfortunately listened to, which was in many ways worse, the climate book that Bill Gates put out, because the preface is read by Bill Gates, like read by Bill Gates, and then like the rest of the fucking book is Will fucking Wheaton. I was just like, oh god. But like yeah, the book the book starts with like the literal first two sentences are about how like under COVID like the climate situation's gotten better because capitalist production slowed down, and then like no reflection on that, just moves straight on. And then the whole preface is about how Bill Gates has noticed like young passionate people protesting, telling him to divest his investment in fucking fossil fuels. And he writes like, it reminds me of the young passionate people from when I was growing up, people protesting against the Vietnam War, people against this and that, and they were all really cool. Anyway, I'm not going to divest. Like, that is literally the preface. It's him just being like, that really reminds me of all these people who are on the right side of history. Anyway, I am not going to divest these stocks.
Yeah. He's going to be like, not going to read that, thanks.
Yeah, literally.
Talking about Bill Gates, is he the biggest farmland owner in the USA?
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And Sophie, just imagine this. You just talk about story of a person lost his house because of the flood to the Bill Gates' hand. Imagine this in the parallel universe. That person, when his house got destroyed and his land got destroyed by the flood, the local government first will send military to go fix his house. And then after that, he will calculate all the loss he had on his house, on his land and his farm, and then file that to the local government, and he received the money back. For help, and the local government also in the next crop they send him like free seeds and also free animals such as like pigs or cows if he wants to have an animal farm, or if the flood his house keep flooding every year, the local government will give him even a bigger piece of land so he can build his house, a new house, totally for free.
Holy shit!
Like insurance,
Yes, and then whenever he moves, he will also have at least 500 square meter of rice farm going with him if he still wants to be a farmer.
Fucking hell! Oh my god!
That's in the parallel universe.
Parallel universe based America instead, where it works like a reasonable country.
Absolutely,
we are not
everything.
rich, by the way. We're not rich. We're just a poor developing country, and we are not perfect.
Right.
You mentioned.
I just wanted to throw it. I just wanted to just very quickly. I only just recently started watching Star Trek, and I only just realized why people were talking about Wesley and being Will Wheaton. I didn't realize that Will Wheaton was.
How do you feel about Wesley?
I mean, it's like he's so annoying. I don't know if he redeems himself or whatever, but he just seems like
he doesn't.
just like a little.
He's always the same. He's just like older.
Whatever.
We're not doing a Star Trek derail. We can totally do a
Star
Trek.
I just wanted to say,
because I saw the whole Star Trek episode. It would be great. We're not doing a Star Trek derail.
I was like,
right
why
now.
is everyone in the chat talking about Wesley? Like, what is going on?
We have a perfect we have a perfect name for people like Wesley. Because in Vietnamese, con nhà người ta means like other house child. Means that like he always perfect, and we always got compared to them by our parents, and that's so fucking annoying.
That's exactly Wesley. Yeah. That's so
yeah,
great.
that's Wesley.
I was gonna ask.
I love that.
Smart.
I love it.
I was going to ask Luna, you've mentioned this a few times as well, and this is definitely straying a little bit off of the mutual aid stuff because this is governmental instead. But you've mentioned a few times like the military and the police doing stuff like helping rebuild someone's house after a disaster, shit like this. And like, I'm wondering like, that's got to be hard because like the time when you're not like shooting dogs and like chasing teenagers and like, that's what the police do, right? Is like,
police just like kill people randomly, like that's what they do. So how do they
killing
find time?
people and like flying helicopters to intimidate people out of public parks, like stuff like this is like killing people in their fucking bed with a no-knock warrant. Yeah, exactly. But yeah, where do they find all the time to do all that stuff, the cool stuff instead of
That's weird, right? Most people in Vietnam are not even armed; they're unarmed.
Right.
Wow, holy
shit.
Yeah. And since the funny thing is that this like I love the idea of anarchists. Like you don't like cops. I don't like cops either. They give me anxiety too, even though they're not as horrible as the cops in the USA. But think that like since the pandemic started in my city in Da Nang 2 years already. Like since the pandemic started, like we haven't seen any cops on the street. Barely, I mean, once every 3 months, and they work on the traffic in the traffic jam hour. Means like, I'm sorry, this is an authoritarian quote unquote state. This is a perfect example that we don't need cops. It's like 2 years already. Because the local government just redirected cops and military to the quarantine areas to try to organize those places. No cops in the street. For almost 2 years, and we haven't even faced any situation with cops for 2 years, and we're fine. There's no crime on the street, and everything's so peaceful.
We have a weird relationship with cops down here, where it's like they like they've started carrying around guns and doing all that kind of stuff, and they're like, like they're fucking terrible. Like like it's like. But it's this weird thing where the COVID response was that they weren't kind of really, like there's all these like really funny videos where all these like anti-maskers and stuff were trying to bait the police into like doing something, and like the police would just like be giving them masks and being like, hey, you should really be using this, buddy, or whatever. But it's mainly because our police are just really good at optics, so so like you can get like shot to death if you're like a Maori dude having a mental health crisis or something like that, but if you're like someone in the middle of a pandemic that is like going around like trying to breathe on everyone and cough on people and shit like that, they'll just like be like, hey buddy, you should wear a mask or whatever. It was kind of.
We don't even need them that much. We don't even need them that much. We're fine. For 2 years in Vietnam, we're fine without cops, so don't worry.
It was it was kind of interesting because it kind of like defanged a lot of those moments where it's like, they were trying to make like a viral moment to kind of like get support or whatever like that. And it kind of made the cops seem like the good guys, but like they constantly do that in other things as well. Like in a lot of like, kind of like land back protests or whatever like that, they'll be like literally like, beating people up, pushing them over, and then they'll like pose by a bonfire with their guitar and like sing a song, and then everyone will be like,
just like America,
and like that's what they put on the news. They'll put that on the news, or they'll put like a dog, like a cop like patting a dog, and they'll be like, oh,
right before shooting the dog,
like. Just shit like that, and then like you see like all the photos on social media, and it'll actually be like like cops like knocking people out and like breaking their arms and stuff. Like they've just got like really good focus on their like PR.
Real quick,
in my interview with Emmy, Emmy was saying how like the Papa worked to like just like completely roast the police when the cops. I can't remember the exact thing. I mean, but it was like the cops did like a photo op where they were like showing off a bunch of like their new cool toys, just like massive militarization, and then like Papa were able to just like completely roast them, and everyone turned against them really hardcore, and they had to like delete the post. But I was gonna say like it's the same fucking thing here. Like under the pandemic, like we've had like demonstrations from like anti-mask, anti-vaccine people who are like throwing fireworks at cops and Hitler saluting and shit. And then like the cops are just like you should go home, have a nice day. And then if people are like hey, please don't take away our fucking human right to protest, they're like fucking then you see the nasty side of the cops.
Real quick, I want to interject real quick. And chat, you never have to say anything you're not comfortable with. Remember that. But I would like to see if anyone's comfortable. Where are you from? Where are you coming from, chat? What country are you in? What country do you live in? Since we're talking to people in the UK, Vietnam, America, and New Zealand right now on this panel. So it'd be really cool, and which is awesome, by the way. Can I just take a moment? Just be like, that's really fucking cool. And it makes me feel so much less alienated, especially as an American who feels like I'm like stuck in hell.
We got to all link up around the world. That's how we're gonna
Look at all these countries. We have Germany, Brazil, Canada, US. Denmark,
should be brown, Bad Bunny. You should be brown. You're from the greatest country on earth.
That's right. Thank you.
The best.
Thank you. This is so cool. So many people, different places. Yeah, this is awesome.
Yeah, Nat just pointed out in chat as well. Like literally, so there's a case recently that like people who aren't suffering TERF Island might not be aware, but like a woman called Sarah Everard was like arrested by a police officer, but actually he was off duty and he just like handcuffed her and put her in the back of his car, and then he like assaulted her and murdered her. And it's like been a huge thing. It's been like all over the press, and like the protests in response where people were like, maybe the cops shouldn't fucking horrifyingly murder women. The cops like cracked down incredibly hard. Like there were photos all over the place of like the horrible brutality there. And again, like that's the contrast. Like people who are protesting that the cops murdered a woman get fucking boots on their necks, and like dudes throwing fireworks at cops because they don't want to get the vaccine are just like, nah, that's fine.
A trans woman who was at the trans rights protest in Manchester yesterday that I know was actually arrested at a protest after that.
No.
I can't remember. It was like a couple of weeks after the Sarah Everard protest, and this was a Kill the Bill protest, which is about the bill.
We'll do a whole episode about this.
It's going to be a whole thing. But basically, she was essentially like tackled to the ground and essentially stripped, and then carried away for everyone to see, and then put in the back of a wagon, driven around the whole of Manchester, and then dropped off somewhere randomly miles away from where she lives in a place called Widnes, which is like 20 miles
fucking hell
up to the north of Manchester. And this is just like what police do in the Imperial Corps, right? Just like, no, sorry.
Totally. Yeah. No, yeah, I know the case you're talking about. I saw that through social media. That's horrifying. We've gotten way off onto cops.
We have,
True, we have. Everyone hits cops.
Let's talk about mutual aid some more. How about that?
Slave hunters, so fuck them.
Right,
exactly. That's exactly
Can we get some trans rights in the chat real quick, by the way?
Hell yeah.
Bun
Mule, you had another...
Or if you're not, if you're not a sub, then just write trans rights. Or if you have a trans rights emote from somewhere else, or maybe a trans flag in your mobile, hell yeah.
Mule had another link that he contributed to the notes. I've put it into the group chat there about the 0161 community, and this was kind of an interesting one because we had a little bit of a back and forth in the mod the Red Planet hosts group chat about whether this one is charity or mutual aid, and maybe we can kind of litigate that on stream. My feeling is that it's mutual aid, but we'll that's go like. Mule, do you want to Nicole? If you get it on,
I'm gonna try
for a second.
Is it not going to work?
Meowing. I'm going to duck out. I'll be back in just.
All right, no worries. Mule, do you want to tell us all about this 0161 community?
Yes. So the 0161 community has a very interesting sort of recent history in the UK. So they're based in a place called Bolton, which is again about a similar distance away from Manchester city centre to Widnes, as we were talking about before. It's about 20 miles away, but they operate all over Greater Manchester, and so their aims and objectives are as follows: 1, to promote a strong, unified working class identity. Obviously, that could be taken many ways, but moving on. 2, uniting people to take control of their neighborhoods. Again, something that could be left open to interpretation, but I think that if you understand mutual aid from how we're talking about it, then it makes sense, right? 3, to empower the unheard and provide all with skills, guidance, and confidence.
Right.
Again, this could be applied to many different things. 4, to promote a healthy and positive lifestyle, and that is mirrored in a lot of the activities that they do. I'll go into that in a sec. And 5, to encourage conversation and exchange of knowledge of our working class history.
Yeah.
So that is essentially like, okay, teach each other theory, right? That's basically what that means. Not necessarily theory, but like, you know, past examples of mutual aid, past examples of building dual power structures, and past examples of successful protests, right? And stuff like that. Then when you go into what else do we got? The events that they do. So mainly what they do is they have reoccurring events at the moment. So for example, they have Muay Thai classes, which is kickboxing, Thai kickboxing. They also have football, 5-a-side competitions and stuff like that. And these are like really, really easy ways to sort of like get working class people involved with something, because, you know, what's a working class sort of, you know, activity? Yeah, boxing and football, 100%.
Sure. Yeah.
You know, you get people from the working class involved in that, and then you say to them, yo, we're actually doing this thing next week where we're going to go and give a bunch of food.
Stuff,
yeah, we're going to go and give a bunch of food to people, you know, to poor families in need. Do you want to get involved? You know, sorry, we can't pay you, but like, this is what we do, right? And so they do stuff like that. So for example, some of the previous events that they had, if I just bring them out, hold up, I'm just scrolling down. Community Summer Fun Day. Yeah, so they do like Community Summer Fun Day, for example, where they like got a bunch of people together at like a boxing academy, where they had, and obviously it's open to all ages. It's not just like, you know, an adults only thing. There's kids invited, you know, families invited, stuff like that. And it looks like from the pictures and stuff like that you can see that it's just basically like a really wholesome family fun day. But if you're bringing people together in that environment and telling them like, right, okay, you know, what do you, or asking them, right, what do you want to see us give back to the community, kind of thing, you know? So they go around and, like, for example, over Christmas, they gave a lot of toys and food to, you know, poor families, like, couldn't afford to give their kids Christmas presents and stuff like that. There's also, they did a community LGBT history mural, where they got involved with the Oldham Library and created a huge mural and stuff with contributions from the community. So they do all sorts of stuff, like loads and loads and loads of stuff. And it is all paid for by donations to their it's I guess registered as a charity. I think they have to be, or something like that, in order to operate. I don't know how it works, but it seems like there is like a central donation element of it. So yeah, that's essentially what they're about.
So the way that they take funds in, fundamentally, that's they're taking funds in, and then they're saying, we're going to do this with the money. The money is going to be this is why I think it's charity. It's in my opinion, it's a charity with the theme of class solidarity as a stepping stone to maybe a mutual aid. But in this particular, it kind of deals with maybe the non-reformist reform kind of vibe that one of the streams are going to have soon. But that's why I instinctively was like, this feels to me like it's like, clearly it's not just giving you a meal or something. It's like we're trying to start building a foundation of sorts to be able to like get to the next step, but it just does not feel like it's at the next step yet. It feels like it's already the charity.
Mule, you put an interesting fact in the group chat about this organization.
Oh, I forgot about this.
I forgot about this. Right.
So this is how you know that they're doing something good. Okay, so this
and by the way, I'm not saying they're not doing something good, by the way, for the record.
This destroys Nicole's
I'm going to get demolished.
Ideas.
No. I'm getting owned. Everyone clip this.
It's owned. It's a clip. Yeah, it's a clippable moment. It's a hot take. No. They were put on the...
Just took a big swig of wine before she heard this.
They were put on the list of left-wing terrorist organizations.
That's pretty.
Yes.
That's pretty based.
Okay.
By the
I was also going to say the fact that the U.S. invaded Vietnam to stop the communist threat is also, you know, when the capitalists like bully.
Action, by the way.
Yeah.
In other words, it's police action.
Well, police. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. But the fact that occurs is like, I always think it's like a good indication that something is like something awesome is happening, that the U.S. is like feel not always not a perfect rule. I don't think it's a perfect rule, but I think
in all seriousness, like you look through the list of what these folks at 0161 community are up to, and it's like, so if they're like organizing football matches, teaching people like to exercise, and like getting people to hang out, and like, you know, they're just making some folks healthy and happy and have a community, and they're placed as like a fucking terrorist organization by the Metropolitan.
It is though. And I think like what Dalmatian is saying is in the chat is how it's similar to what fascists use. Like a lot of fascist organizations that I've seen, particularly in New Zealand, will do very similar things. And also actually kind of like, I know a bunch of like local gangs, but like the, you know, like not the fun type of gangs that do the same thing, where they will, you know, like they'll have like, you know, like Muay classes, or do things like that. And they definitely, you know, and like there comes like other things come with that or whatever, you know, like I know like there was like a white supremacist group in New Zealand that were pushing themselves out into all the gyms, and then so, you know, like they would recruit by being like, man, this gym's kind of cool, but you should see the one that we've got. You can come and hang out there, but like, you know, there's things attached to that or whatever. So there is definitely like you know, like I could see that, you know, like someone might be like, oh, this is like a terrorist organization because like, you know, they get you in with this, but then they're going to give you this ideology. But it's like, obviously there's a huge difference between the ideology imparted by like a left-wing group that's like, hey, we should all have food and healthcare. This is like, you know, the white supremacists that are like, hey, we're the fucking master race or whatever.
Well, it's really important that you say that, Tim, because this is the praxis that most left-wing anti-fascist groups do in the UK, because that is where white supremacy in the UK really did well, unfortunately. And that was the BNP going to... Kat Black does a great video on this, and it's about how like racism has evolved over time, and she touches on this like at the very start of the video, but like the BNP would go to football matches and speak to people and say, yo, was your granddad in the war? And of course everybody, not granddad, but it was your dad in the war, and of course everybody's dad was in the war in the 70s, right? You know, whose dad in... If it was their dad, they were fighting in the World War, right? They were in World War II. Yeah. And so they would say things like, don't you think your dad would be spinning in his unmarked grave somewhere in France if he saw all these Pakistani people come into the country? And that's how they would like recruit people, right? That is one of the... So it's like anti-fascist groups in the UK basically said, right, okay, you know what? They've got a point. That's probably one of the best places to start, because people who go and watch football,
like Generation Identity, like handing out free meals with fascist literature to homeless people.
Exactly right, and you know, like getting people who are like really on the poverty line. You know, because people who watch football tend to be in the UK like working class people, because you know it's one of those outlets. It's like, what have you got to look forward to in your life? The game. You know, so that's what we go for. Yeah.
There have been like traditions of like communist football clubs and stuff in the past. It's like, you know, if you look in like in like pre-Soviet, you know, the whole like Soviet area, and like in Italy as well, there was like a really big Italian football club and stuff. Communist football club, and it's like, I think that there's like something totally there as well, you know, and like you know, in the same way that you know, like the Black Panthers would like organize like community projects and be like, hey, you should take these pamphlets as well, or like you should you know, maybe join us for a reading group or whatever like that. I think that like, you know, like what this 0161 are doing with like, you know, like the Thai kickboxing and everything like that is fucking sick, because I know so many people that have been like turned onto really shitty ideology by...
Nicole, your files are on the screen, just so you know.
Yeah. Thanks, sorry about that.
You know, like they'll train at a gym, and you know, all of a sudden, like some dude's being like, "Hey, man, you like the Joe Rogan podcast? Well, check out the, you know, Stefan Molyneux or some shit like that." Whereas, like, you know, like I think just having a space that someone could come to and just train, you know, and then be like, you know, like, and if they see like some posters around and be like, "Hey, what's that about?" You know,
what's this communism thing?
Yeah. I think that could be like a really positive, because that's totally what's happening with like the football clubs and stuff. And,
I mean, it's a weird thing in the UK. Like, I live next to basically one of the most explicitly fascist football clubs in the UK.
Oh wow!
But there are also like explicitly anti-fascist football clubs as well. So it's like a weird thing. Like, people, I think, are aware of football clubs coming into violent conflict with one another, and a whole bunch of that totally is literally just team sports and people being mad about football. But some of it is also like literally like people from Millwall being like, let's look out for any black and brown people or any queers.
Someone mentioned
and
when you
fuck
said
them up.
that.
If you know, if we see them at the match, and then other people being like, we know Millwall are going to do that. Let's stop them. You know. And it, like, look, I don't think that the fact that you can donate to the 0161 makes it charity. That would be an active charity if you're not in their community and you're just giving to this thing. That would be an active charity. But I think it's absolutely clear to me, like, this is a community, and therefore it's a network of mutual aid. It's people who are helping one another, and they're organizing. A lot of what we talked about today on stream already has been like very anarchist kind of model, where it's all about just like whenever people need things in a very loose and unorganized fashion, we're just like giving. And to be clear, it's not that I believe anarchism is just disorganized. Obviously I don't. I'm an anarchist. But that is that more sort of fashion, whereas this is a centralized thing, right? And it's still mutual aid. Having a hierarchy or a central like planning and organizing does not make it not mutual aid.
Totally agree with Sophie here, because it is the same thing in Vietnam, I got to say. Because Vietnam, actually, we started and we took power, we took the support from the people because of mutual aid and dual power structure. We built our Communist Party since like the 20s and the 30s, when Vietnam was still under colonialism of France, and then the fascism of Japan. So that it was like we were severely suppressed and oppressed at that time. And how we got the support from millions of Vietnamese people at that time. 90% of Vietnamese people at that time didn't even know how to read and write. They didn't even understand what communism meant at that time at all. But one of the main reasons why we had a successful communist revolution was because the communists, we broke into the rice storage house of the French and the Japanese, and we took the rice and redistributed the rice to the people. That was why we got the support from millions of people. That was why we had a successful revolution. That was why, like, we took a power from the mutual aid and we built dual power structure to fight against colonialism and fascism and then imperialism from the USA. So that is why, like, my message to all the comrades, especially comrades from the West imperial core, is that you have to be the ones that people think of the first when they need help.
Yes.
They got their house broken, they're hungry,
That's
they got
exactly
problem with cops, or they got injured or something. You're gonna be the first one they think of, they think about, and ask for help. That is how you got the support, to get support.
That's
from
exactly
the people,
it.
and slowly, and that is why a lot of people might don't understand about why Vietnam is Vietnam today, when like the government and the people work closely together as one entity, because we went through all of that. We spent decades with each other doing mutual aid and building dual power structure. That is why we have Vietnam today. It is not perfect yet. Of course, we still have many problems, but at least we are a little bit one step further in the development of having mutual aid and dual power structure. And I hope that we can set an example or a lesson for you to learn and study. And then for now, you in the situation that you're heavily oppressed by your state and you don't receive any freaking help from them, and you are the ones who gonna help yourself. Nobody else does.
Yes, absolutely.
So, yes,
I also want to
organize.
Go ahead.
I wanted to highlight, Autotrot just said in the chat, the Koha model stays winning, which is, Koha is a thing that we have down here. It's like a concept that a lot of people like simplistically reduce to just like a donation or something like that. Like, you know, a lot of time you'll see like, you know, there'll be like a gig at Whammy Bar and it'll be like Koha entry or whatever like that, which, you know, people think of just, you just give whatever you want to get in. But it's actually like this thing of like, it is kind of more in line with like, it's like mutual aid giving kind of thing. And a lot of charities, charities and like mutual aid kind of things like operate under the kind of this Koha kind of model, where it's like, it's not necessarily money, it can be money, but it could be anything. Traditionally, it was something that was to kind of help maintain whatever is going on, you know, like if like if I was going to, like if I'd been invited by someone from another like hapu or whatever to go to like a fucking feast or some shit like that, I would bring things that would help them kind of like, you know, help them put it on, whether it was like food or even like things, you know, like if it's, you know, if they've been growing food there or whatever like that, I might even like donate like, you know, agricultural equipment like tools or something like that to help them kind of, you know, like to kind of like pay back or whatever like that. But then these days that's kind of evolved to like even people like donating things from like, yeah, like basic funds or whatever to like server space and all this kind of, you know, like just, you know, like all kinds of technical things or whatever. And it can also be like skills, you know, like you know, like I've seen people donate, you know, like even like teach classes as kind of like payment or whatever. And there's this kind of like mutual aid thing where it can be like, it could be anything. But also part of it is that whatever it is, you're not allowed, like it's considered like a real insult to like reject it or question it or anything like that, you know? So like you do get in like kind of funny situations or whatever like that, where like I know friends that do, you know, traditional tattooing tamoko for koha, and they'll, you know, like tattoo someone's entire family, their whole bodies or whatever, and then someone will be like, okay, here, well, you know, like I've got you like a $5 scratchy card, you know, see if you want something, which is kind of funny. And I think like if that is like legitimately all you have, like that's
it's sweet,
like whatever. But it's like yeah, there's like there's actually way worse examples I've got, but I didn't want to say them because I thought it might be a little bit mean, you know. Yeah. But and it's kind of like you know, I think that kind of like speaks to a lot of like the cultural kind of things with us as well, where, you know, like we have these like concepts like you know, one is like mana akatanga, which is like a lot of people say it's like radical hospitality, but it's kind of like about giving everyone the tools to be kind of like the best versions of themselves, and whether that's like support and like, you know, like support for like, you know, whatever, whether it's like mental health or, you know, like housing or anything like that, through to even like, you know, like education and yeah, like feeding them and things like that. And it like extends even to like your enemies, you know, like, yeah, it's like if you were wanting to fight someone, you don't want to like, you know, you want to make sure that it's like an actual like an even kind of thing, you know, that it is like you're both kind of coming from the same place. And another one, Kutaitanga, which is like kind of more like unity and stuff, like across different lines. It's more like solidarity, I would say, where it's like, you know, like even if we're like coming from different you know, different tribes with different interests or whatever like that, there is like this idea of yeah, you know, like solidarity between us because we have common interests, and you know, like we don't want to just like destroy the entire, you know, we don't want to like destroy the area that we all live in or whatever.
Right, yeah.
But yeah. I just saw that comment from
Tim. People are asking you how you spell these things in the chat,
so they can look them up.
Oh yeah. So I'm gonna put them in the chat. So koha is just like that, Koha. So mana akitanga is like this, like that, and then kutaitanga is like this. And they do have macrons in there, but I just don't have it set up on my keyboard. But if you search for that stuff, it'll come up.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
I wanted to double down on what Luna already said before moving on to the next topic, because like the next topic will pivot away from it a little bit, but I think it's absolutely crucial what Luna already said, that like that if people are building towards a revolution, if people are building towards world communism, right? What the strategy that they will be relying on, the one that will work, the one that gets the goods, they will make themselves the people who people think of first. When you have a problem, you have to be the person that they think of first. When you need food, when you need anything, Luna's exactly right about that. If you want to be for the people, that's where you have to start, is with people's problems. But the last topic of this mutual aid stuff, this is where I thought that your discussion of Chaz might come back around, Nicole, is the idea of blockadia. So I've brought up this idea before, but not by name, not by this name, because I basically I had this idea on my own, and then I found out it was already a thing, and That's usually a sign
I
that you're
love
onto
when that
something. Is when
happens.
people kind of
like that thing that you said about salting. Like I thought I came up with.
Oh,
it.
yeah,
you thought you came up with salting, but it was a thing. Or yeah. We'll do a whole episode.
Like,
we'll do
bro,
a
what
whole
if we
episode on
like
salting.
got hired,
Yeah.
bro, and we only were hired so we could disrupt the workplace and like propagandize
We were saying-
alienation,
We
bro.
were saying
That'd be fucking wild.
it's like a really based but like stoner idea that you're just
Yeah,
like,
but
I'm
it's
gonna
like-
get in
it's like
there
actually
and
a
like
real thing.
fucking get everyone to join a union. But
It's
like
like a
people
real
do it.
thing,
Yeah,
chat.
it's real.
It's called salting.
Whatever.
Yeah,
Yeah,
sick.
we'll do a
Join
whole.
the union.
We'll do a whole.
I hadn't heard of it
Okay.
referred to as that. That's
It
great.
was me. I came
wait
up
a
with it.
minute.
Yeah,
I want
DJ
to
Mule
point
came up with
out
it.
is that like
Uh-huh.
why? Because I've been looking at your society from the outside perspective, and I see it. I think it's like your like indoctrination, your individualism is so strong,
Yes.
and
yeah,
that
it's
is
not
why
great.
It's really bad.
It's
Yeah,
really
it's
bad.
really,
that
really
is
fucking
why,
bad.
Like,
Yeah.
you're struggling to organize with each other. It's just like it's a society full of like selfishness and every man for himself. Okay,
Yeah.
compete. Competition will drive your society forward somehow.
And sometimes every woman for herself as well. You got to remember the girl bosses. You know.
That's right. We love our girl bosses.
It's insane. The
Yeah.
alienation over there
Yeah,
is
it sucks.
insane to think like we need to get out of it to fight against individualism and alienation to work together to come out of your bubble to go work with the people that you in your area that you trust.
There is
And
gonna
then-
be. Yeah. Sorry.
I'm just saying like it's hard, yes, because it's against everything that you've been facing and educated your whole life, but like
Yeah.
but it must be the way that you have to organize
Yeah.
to get together because like alone the reason why capitalism want to divide you like that because like if you're just like being separated like that, it's so easy to break you.
Yes.
We have
See,
a
this is
story
what
in
I've been saying,
Vietnam.
chat. Yeah.
Yeah, the story in Vietnam that like
You'll also made up
for
that.
example,
Made that up.
this is a chopstick, a wooden chopstick, and if you just like take one
Yes.
chopstick out, you break it easily, one by one. Take you a few
Yes.
minutes to destroy the whole bunch of chopsticks. But if you got all chopsticks together as a big bunch, you are
I love that.
like unbreakable.
That's exactly
Got it?
right.
Love
That's
that.
fucking exactly right. That's
Yes,
exactly
that-
I just
fucking
wanna
it.
I guess these
specify
things
it.
talk to
So
kids,
Asian
by the way. I
culture
love
story.
that. It's
I
like a
don't
kid-friendly
care.
analogy for like
A
class
bunch of
solidarity.
Exactly.
That
Yeah.
reminds me of there's a Simpsons quote that I like can't say on Twitch because it's got a slur in it, but
Oh, is it?
yeah, like it's about what
Is
is
it a slur or is it a slur?
It's like well, it was Martin, I think it was, where he says like individually
gotcha.
we are weak, but like
Uh-huh.
a single twig, but as a bundle we form a mighty.
Oh,
if
I see.
Yeah, no, that's it.
Bundle of sticks. Okay,
Yeah,
I got it.
Face Martin. I think it was Martin. Yeah.
But yeah, so
I got taught that story was taught to me when it was like, I don't know, 6-year-old, and that story just got
Yeah.
stuck inside our mind
yeah,
our whole life.
that's exactly
Together.
right.
You're powerful and you're unbreakable, but if you got separated like that, that is why your system over there trying every means they can
Yes,
Yes.
To
to
divide us.
separate you apart, to
divide
divide
us,
you,
exactly.
and to alienate you, because
Luna,
it's so
like,
easy to break.
We were
it that
talking
way.
about this earlier too.
I gave a speech yesterday at the trans rights protest outside the BBC where I was
Yeah,
talking.
I heard.
I made a point of talking to the people who like who the BBC won't show my speech to, and I said like the point here is the media wants you to think that they're siding with me and to make and want me to think that they're siding with you, right? They want the game they're playing all the time is dividing us all the time, constantly, so they can do absolutely whatever the fuck they want to us. It's exactly right. The lesson that I think the way I always phrase like what I believe on a really fundamental level is there's this Jewish rabbi who tells a story that's like of what heaven and hell are like, and in hell people are hungry all the time. But
I know this one. Yeah.
but there's all the food they could ever eat, but they can only eat it if they use the cutlery, and the cutlery is too long, so they can't like get it into their mouths. And heaven is exactly the same, but they feed each other.
Yeah.
And like
Ooh.
that's exactly it, you know.
Yeah.
Right.
Interesting.
Final topic: Blockadia.
Yeah.
Blockade. So I already described this actually on Bad Bunny's stream before, when I said that, like, little acts of kindness and mutual aid that we do for one another all the time are like tiny little grains, tiny little spores, and what we need to form is a fucking huge forest-wide mycelium network, right? Tiny little spores are these acts of kindness that we're doing for one another, that are actions of mutual aid and being in community with one another and uniting, right? And we need to grow it until it's a fucking entire, like, huge organism together. And funnily enough, Naomi Klein, who's very smart and has a bunch of really good books, wrote about an idea called Blockadia, which is basically that, like, the revolutionary society will grow from, like, the climate camps and the resistance that's going on right now, like, where people are encamping themselves to stop like the machinery, as in literal machinery that is pumping carbon into the air, like camping to stop oil pipelines, camping to stop, like, to shut down oil refineries and shit like this. That will grow into the revolution and grow into world communism, is the theory of Blockadia. And I was glad that you mentioned Chaz earlier, Nicole, because I already had Blockadia on the notes for the end of the episode, but, like, you said that Chaz, even before any other problems that you analyze, and we'll definitely do a whole episode talking about Chaz with my friend, we'll get her on, it'll be great, but even before any of those problems, Chaz wasn't, like, dedicated to anything. It didn't have a purpose. It was just people trying to, like, hold a thing together, right? Yeah. And by contrast, the point of Blockadia is that people are organizing to meet a need immediately, which is that, like, capitalism, one facet of capitalism is climate change, and it's killing the fucking planet. And so people are organizing on the front line of that to fight back against it. And that's the theory, is that, like, Blockadia is what we call the society that grows out of these camps that are resisting climate change, basically.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So I didn't heard of Blockadia. I looked it up right at the start, and it just, like, it came up with, like, a website. There's, like, a map that it looks like it has, like all these different kind of, like, actions going on around the world at the moment, and it's like, you know, like, you can
you drop that in the group chat so Nicole can put it up on screen?
Oh yeah, cool. I will do that just now. Yeah, so I don't know if that's, like, how tied that is to it or whatever, but I thought that was really interesting, and it reminded me of something super relevant, what the Black Socialists of America have been doing with their Dual Power app. Has anyone seen that?
Oh, no, I didn't mean to check it out. Someone said it, talked about it last stream.
If people don't know, like, Black Socialists of America are really fucking cool.
Yeah, it's a cool thing. It's still, like, in early days or whatever. I'm not sure exactly what the functionality and stuff of it is, but if you just search Dual Power app, it'll come up. But the whole thing is, on the website they say build economic democracy, and they're trying to create, basically, like, it seems like it's trying to create an app to handle a lot of the logistical side of things for, like, you know, establishing kind of, like, you know, mutual aid and dual power kind of stuff. I think I'm interpreting it right, which I think is, like, a super kind of based kind of thing to do, right? Create like an app, like, you know, it's like, this is the age that we're living in, you know. It's like, and these are, like, you know, like, these are, like, tools that, you know, like, a tool like that could make and, like, so many struggles across different nations all over the world a whole lot easier. I think they are looking for, like, it is like an open collaboration thing. I think they're constantly looking for people with different skill sets. So, sorry. And it'd be really cool. Like, I think if anyone is kind of, like, in that kind of sphere, they should probably look into it, see how they can help and stuff. But yeah, and it's a cool thing, like, you know, like, even creating something like this, there might be other people that are creating another similar thing somewhere else or whatever. I think, it's really cool to keep track of these things and keep an eye on them, because I think there's a lot of potential in that space.
Yeah, fuck yeah.
You know, things that, like, even just, like, bookkeeping for, like, you know, like, mutual aid stuff or whatever, like, it could be a real hassle. Just all that kind of stuff. But I think there's, like, a future for using apps and programs and things to make a lot of these, take a lot of the, like, the unnecessary work and maybe the work that probably dissuades people from getting involved with these things. You know, like it's like when you're in like, you know, like even just with like unions and stuff, there's like a lot of people are like, oh, I love to go on strike, hate to fucking, you know, like do the books and kind of, you know, make sure everyone's doing, you know, whatever. Like, yeah.
I'm kind of itching with this because, like, I used to work as an app developer and a web developer, so I'm just like, and I've wanted to for ages, like, apply those skills in some way, and I couldn't see any way that they are really useful because, like, it is just the old methods that literally work. Like, Luna's right that literally, like, the shit we got to do for the most part is just what people have always been doing. But like, this is kind of based. I'm always looking for shit I can do that's just from my house. I might make a little app and see what I can do. Like, that's kind of cool.
There is a thing like Crimson Tinted is pointing out in the chat, being wary of apps for these things because you know, like the technocracy of capitalism sort of thing. That's the thing, like, you know, like with anything that goes in the Apple store has, you know, like there's a whole lot of stuff that they have to, you know, like have, and like Apple has access to so much stuff. So I think it's probably more something that is probably more interesting happening in like the Android kind of space. But still, there is still like such a huge thing, you know, like even like Android phones have like backdoors that, you know, can be used by, you know, the different developers and all that kind of stuff. So there is like, there's always these things. But I think that, you know, like with end-to-end encryption and stuff like that, like I like the idea of people developing apps that are not tied to a central platform, you know, like this idea that, you know, like different people could take these apps and kind of be, you know, like using them without this kind of like, you know, without any kind of like central kind of
that is true,
or anything like that. I think there's a lot of potential there, but yeah, I think that is a totally a very worthy point that Crimson pointed out.
Yeah, I'm into it.
A while ago, I heard about somebody like talk about like the time bank app or website or something. It's when you have like free time, whatever, and then what you can do, and then people just like apply their free time, and so like people, if people can go help. They will like apply for that. Yes, it's time bank. So instead of having a nanny for a few hours a day, people can just like pass by and take care of it. Something like that. It's a very interesting idea. I have to say, I've been thinking about that a lot, about something like a time buying apps. You give mutual aid by giving your free time to help other people.
That's really
I've
cool,
seen like, I mean, there's like a lot of like kind of gig economy stuff like that, where it's like, you know, you're the happy helper or whatever like that.
Yeah, that shit,
but it would be amazing to see that stuff divorced from, you know, divorced from its like gig economy kind of bullshit or whatever, and just be like, you know, like for like local communities, like, okay, everyone's here and like, you know, like, because there's a lot of that kind of stuff you see, like a lot of these mutual aid networks that exist in, you know, like online spaces like Facebook and stuff, where it'd be like, you know, like there was a bunch during COVID over here, like people setting up mutual aid networks for if you're in lockdown, people delivering food and all this kind of stuff. And I've seen other things outside of COVID, you know, like local kind of mutual aid networks that are all about, you know, supporting people in the community, like for if they need things and stuff. And I mean, sometimes it's as simple as just groups where people are like, oh, you know, like we have an excess of these things. Does anyone need these? Or some people being like, we need these, blah, 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 whatever. But I would love to see those things expanded beyond just these, like, you know, like just these kind of like small transactional things and actually developing larger structures for mutual aid and stuff.
Yeah, hell yeah.
Someone in the chat is saying tell me, I just want to mention this really quick, said tell me about it. The back end of the IWW can be kind of a mess at times. We really need volunteers who know that tech stuff. So I'm assuming you work for the IWW. Is that what you're saying? Dalmatianer, is that what you're saying? Because if so, that's first of all awesome, and second of all, I just wanted to say that out loud in case, you know,
maybe someone in chat has someone.
You're an organizer. That's so fucking cool.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
That's really, really cool. I don't know, Dalmatian, maybe you're the same person. Somebody, I mentioned this earlier in the stream, but someone from the IWW got in touch and is going to be on organizing interviews, and we'll get them on Red Planet as well to talk about organizing your workplace and organizing your community. They are the same person.
I feel like I've read out a bunch of their comments as well.
That's really cool.
Yeah, let's go. Looking forward to having you. Yeah,
absolutely. Really looking forward to having you on. Right, I think that's the discussion. Unless anybody else has anything.
Let's do that, and then also I want to make sure the chat has a chance to ask some questions. We don't have a lot of time, chat, so try to ask, you know, questions that you think you're important to answer, and not just like willy nilly. you know.
Luna,
And
Luna,
we've
we're
given
gonna
people
like
plenty of time about their homework as well from last week. So I
That's
think we
true.
can
I was gonna explain to Luna, like, on Red Planet every week we're gonna be giving our guests, our chat, not you, don't worry, giving our chat some homework to do, so they go away in the meantime and they come back and they got to do some stuff, like take some actual steps in the right direction. We'll check in on them in a minute after we've like done any questions chat has about this topic. But like last week, it was for them to join a union, any kind of union, work union, renters union, disability, unemployment union, just anything. And we're going to see how they've done. But you were saying before about like our atomization and our just overwhelming individualism in the West. And I think it is like a serious problem that like we could have endless theory discussions about that I'm very bothered by. But I think that one of the homeworks we will do in a later week is to like go out and meet your neighbors, because like it's something I advocate for all the time. Like even I haven't done it, and like we literally just got to get out there. Like it's just normal for us to not know our neighbors at all here, and it's just fucked. Like don't
tell them that people on the internet told you to do it though, because that might scare them away. But
that's true. Yeah,
just
avoid that.
Try and
probably.
be normal.
Yeah.
I feel like not only do
Hey, talk about neighbors. It's very funny.
Yeah.
My personal true story. So when the last September last year, I had like terrible strict lockdown in my house that I cannot go out at all. So our neighbors, the street, just formed a Zalo chat group. Zalo is just an app that we use for chat. And then my neighbors just formed a chat group on Zalo. And then people just announced that, hey, I know somebody who sells this. Everybody who want to like co-order with us, we did it. And also like when the government gave us, the local government brought us like free vegetable and free bread. And by the way, since we have anarchists here, Vietnam did it. Vietnam did conquer the bread. We gave free bread to people. I literally saw like they got like a truck loaded with bread, and then just scream every day, hey everybody, this is free bread, go take them. And then the Zalo group just like, hey everybody, that's free bread today, pay attention and don't forget to go take them. So in a month, I got free bread several times, I got free vegetables several times, I got free eggs and also free hams. So
hell yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, so
fucking amazing.
That's
fucking rocks. Yeah. That's so far from my reality. You just like don't know.
Yeah, I just want
to
reiterate what I said before, like to chat, because like, you know, if you're thinking like, oh, okay, you know, we've got all these like online nerds who are like super politics nerds telling us to go out and do stuff, like Luna being here and like reporting from her country, which is a socialist country where the things that we are telling you that you could do are happening, and you know, this is like a legit thing that you could do. We are not like, we have the benefit within the imperial core of not being directly at war with our own country, right? You know what I mean? These are the people who suffer that are on the imperial periphery, and Vietnam did this throughout imperial pressure, through fascism, colonialism. So, you know, in terms of thinking about hopium and, you know, stuff like that, like, you know, we have someone here who is from somewhere where it is literally happening, and we're talking about the things that we want you to do and how that aids that, you know, to become reality, right? So there you go, bit of hopium.
Just have a group chat with your neighbors, and then
literally, it can be such a small thing.
Literally, just you can do that like right now. Just go ask for their side numbers or something.
Why have I never done this?
We'll do each homework step week by week. We'll get
like a child. I'm like, just like, so you mean talk to a person?
Okay. Questions in chat. Who wants?
Squirrels down as neighbors.
I live in the same building. Like I can hear them. So you're telling me to like actually like talk to them? Like it just seems
much. But not this week.
It's like, hey, I make like lasagna this lunch. Who wants it?
Oh god, that would be so fucking good. I would love to do that shit. That would be so fucking good.
I've done that before.
Oh my gosh.
We did it too. One lady in the neighborhood cooked like special kind of noodle. It's just like, hey everybody, you want this kind of noodle? I can cook for you too. And we just say, hell yeah. And we did have that kind of thing. It's simple as that. It's not even hard.
So here is Lying Lyle Langley asking, good faith question about general strike. What are the panel's thoughts on the role of people support workers people support workers, shelters, residences, LGBTQIA+ centers, child and elder care, etc., and mitigating damage to supported people should those workers strike. So So firstly, if you're talking about community centers and the kind of thing that we've already been highlighting with, like, we were talking about like 0161 community, for example, if you're talking about places that are already there for the people, well, they shouldn't strike like with. Okay, a strike is about withholding your labor from capitalism. If you work somewhere where your labor goes towards helping people, right, then you don't strike to like. But like, obviously nurses strike and firefighters strike and shit like this all the time when they are trying to demand better from their bosses. But in the case of a general strike like we've been describing, it would be more like those places would become organizing centers. Those places would become absolutely vital and would become like methods of distribution of like places where people would get the shit that they need. Like Nat has a whole great fucking plan for basically like, if a union could get the capital to do it, they should buy out the fucking McDonald's franchise and then just charge nothing and just let it be a place where people get fucking free food.
Oh, there was some people did that with a McDonald's. I think it was
fucking
in France.
based. Hell yeah.
It was like I think the place was kind of not doing so well, and the workers kind of just took over and turned it into like basically like a free food place and fed like a neighborhood. It was like
fucking rocks.
Yeah, it was fucking cool. I'm not sure what's happened since then, but I remember when it was kind of like a developing situation, and it was awesome. It was like literally the people that were working there just kind of like showed up and they repainted it and everything, and they were just like, you know, like, fuck it, this is our place now, and we just feed the neighborhood. And they were in an area where there was a lot of like state housing for refugees and stuff, and they were just like, you know, fuck it, we're feeding our neighbors.
Which
is pretty awesome.
There's a
go ahead, Soph.
There not a book recommendation this time, a video game recommendation, and actually it's a really short one and it's pay what you feel. So there's a game called A Bewitching Revolution, which if you want to understand a lot of like on the ground, just like straightforward, like how things flip from being capitalist to being for the people, right? It's actually a great game. It only takes an hour to play, pay what you feel, and basically you play the witch of the city who just goes around and uses her magic, but like her magic is communism is the thing. Like her magic is class consciousness. And so she just goes around to like all these different places and like turns the fucking concrete shit into a community garden, and then she goes over to the we're saying, like to McDonald's, and she turns it into a kitchen where like the community are fed, and she goes to the prison and like her magic there, and they're like rebel against the prison guards and shit like this. Great game to understand like a sort of like a lot of details very quickly and implicitly without like us talking heads all telling you what to do. It's a really good game to just like get you understanding it really viscerally, because it just shows you all without like words. It's called A Bewitching Revolution. It's very good.
Very cool.
I saw someone just say, Prince Infidel asked, my mutual aid group fell apart because all of the middle class white members were waiting for someone to tell them what to do. How do you prevent something like this? I feel like the strength in a lot of these groups, whether it's a union or a mutual aid group, to becoming like actually having like some kind of like revolutionary potential, is to be like really to have it organized by people that, you know, like you gotta have your eyes on the long game, right? Like from the start you need to be like, this is like, you know, maybe we're organizing for, you know, like maybe we're doing this right now, but the goal is down the track. Like we're working on communism or whatever like that, and we need to have a plan from there to there. And then if you set that groundwork out, then there shouldn't be a point where you're just kind of like, well, what do we do next or whatever? Because if you're not, you know, if you haven't achieved communism, or like, I mean, you know, like some people believe communism is a constant kind of series of revolutions. Like, unless you've done that, like, there should always be something to do. And I think, like, figuring out that plan is, like, I guess probably the hard part. But I think it's more about like try to establish a long-term plan in the phase of actually, you know, getting the group together or whatever. I feel like I can definitely see how momentum would kind of stagnate if you're like, okay, cool, we're gonna unionize, we're gonna form a mutual aid network, and then we're gonna figure out what we're gonna do. My advice for that would probably be to figure out everything initially when you're at the outset, as opposed to later.
Can I just yes and that for 1 second? There are organizations that exist which don't have a long-term plan, and are basically, because of that, they're kind of just a little bit more liberal. Like their vision for the world isn't for it to get get better overall, just for them to keep on like forever playing whack-a-mole against the problems. And the end of Tim's video is so good because of that little, I hope everyone remembers, like that little diagram where like the red dot goes into all the blue dots, and then they all turn red, and then they go in and turn all the other ones red, right? Like that's exactly it. Like it's okay to go into organizations like that don't have a plan. I'm just saying, like, it's important to have that plan. It's also okay if you go into an organization that is directly helping people and they don't have that plan. That just means it's your job to help them have that plan. You know, it's your job to like get that consciousness going and like try and shift things. It won't always be possible, but like I just want to say not to write off groups and organizations that don't already have like the consciousness they need just because they haven't yet woken up to it.
You could provide that consciousness.
Exactly.
Yeah. You could literally get in there and be like, yo, why aren't we doing this? You know, it is like you have to be active in your activism, right? You know.
So something I want to make sure I get this question in because place 2K. Yeah. They said, hey, y'all, I'm on the topic of trying to organize in a technocratic society. I'm helping put together a queer/leftist online magazine/publication in response to the only other queer magazine in New Zealand being corporate drivel. But something I've been thinking about is how could we help facilitate mutual aid through something like that besides listing resources, literature, and organizations? I don't know if there's any particular answer. I know we've been kind of dancing around this sort of, so
like this is something that I will write about in Cyberpunk 2022, a direction for the online left thing I'm working on. It'll come out later this year. But like there is a division. There is a division actually between audience and content creators in the online space. And actually, like a lot of the time, like we will be doing shit that's just like listing resources, breaking down literature for people, and pointing out organizations, because a lot of the time that is literally like the best thing that we can do. I just wanted to say, like, maybe I'm coming across defensive, like, but like literally that is the stuff that we can do as content creators a lot of the time. Sorry, I need to reread the question now.
That's fine. I'll put it in the chat again because I just copy pasted it. How can we help facilitate mutual aid through something like that, or through something like that besides listing resources?
Sorry. Through a publication, exactly. That's part of what I'm getting at. Like, literally, if you have a platform, if you're using a platform, a lot of what you can do is just to use that platform. Another thing that I will cover in Cyberpunk 2022 is that I think that people who leftists who have a platform, if we're going to be united by one single issue, it should probably be surveillance, and it's for a lot of reasons. And if you don't buy that right now, like, wait until I publish the thing and maybe give my arguments a read then. But like, I do think it should be surveillance, and part of the reason for that is that if you as a person with a platform, people with publications, people with eyes on them, are talking about surveillance and the ways that people organize to get around surveillance, the ways that you should act to assume like people are watching you and still organize anyway, the ways to be effective when you know you're being surveilled, then everyone who needs that information can be getting it at the same time that like the surveillance is probably going to be more focused on, you know, the community who are talking about surveillance all the time, the content creators, the people with a platform, you know what I'm saying? And so like, that's a way to think about it. If we're gonna have an episode, I'll double check the timing for it, but we're gonna have an episode on OPSEC, operational security, with someone who worked in a U.S. naval intelligence organization. She's incredibly based. She's a very good friend of mine, and operational security is like a vital kind of thing, right? So it's like you can provide lessons for people through that kind of publication that like that go beyond just resources, literature, organizations, right? You can provide lessons to people that are like incredibly practical. Like, I was listening to an episode of It Could Happen Here. Robert Evans was talking to some rioters, and one of them was just and one of them was saying that like, because she's short, she has a good advantage against riot police, because when you see a cop with riot gear on and a big riot shield, they're very top heavy. So you just get down low, you sweep their legs, they're like a turtle stranded on their back.
Nice.
And that's all advice that we don't hear endorsed on the show. We're just saying that is a thing that people do. And exactly, like Rob Evans was interviewing that person and just reporting on a thing that they did, right? Like that. But to some people who have decided to do bad crime that's illegal, that would be considered practical advice. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, but, like,
That is why
I mean,
we're so good at guerrilla tactics. I am less than 5'2". I am like 100 pounds and less than 5'2", so don't even mess with me.
That's exactly it. Don't mess with Luna. She will fucking end you. Yeah. There are direct lessons we can give to people, but like we do have to be careful about the not to be endorsing crime.
Yeah. But also just like what Plastic was saying about, besides from listing resources, literature, and organizations, like compared to what's out there at the moment, those things are already like peaked, you know? Like, I mean, I'm assuming the only other magazine you're talking about is like Express, which is like very like just like liberal kind of like you know like kind of like, I don't know, it's just like it's a magazine that's about like, you know, like being like, I don't know, it's like the kind of like queer eye for the straight guy kind of like market sort of thing, and it's like they're not going to talk about in there at all about mutual aid networks or anything like that. It's like it's pretty cringe, pretty libby or whatever. So I feel like you know, like anything that you can add to the conversation is going to be good, and I don't think you have to like, you know, like sweat yourself for being like, oh, we're not doing enough for the revolution. Like obviously, like everyone can always be doing more, but I think like even just bringing that to the table is like, you know, like I think you're already up to a pretty good start.
According to your abilities, to which according to your needs, just like do whatever you can and try to not do nothing. Even just read a book is something.
But I mean
read a book.
So
not
I mentioned
Wikipedia, I mean real books.
I mentioned and recommended the Squatter's Handbook, which is again UK focused. Squatter's Handbook is in its 14th edition now because it updates to the UK law, and like that's a great example of something that's like, you know, making a publication that they regularly reprint and regularly circulate, and it like has practical advice to do with the law and to do with like the practicality of squatting. It's a handbook for squatters, right? Like putting that information out there is fucking absolutely crucial. Like it genuinely is like really fucking important.
It all works together, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Someone says this guy needs to chill on the likes. Shut up, I can't help it.
You know what,
bully,
Tim? This is something that I've only recently, you know, realized. I say like all the time, dude. It is
Also, you know what? You fucking do a stream, all right?
Right. Let's see you not use interconnecting
endlessly off
words.
the cuff about shit like this. I want to see you do it. Exactly.
This guy needs to chill on telling this guy to chill on the likes, right? You know, come on.
Got him. Are there any other chat questions we want to hit?
I just realized also I haven't thanked a single donation or subscription.
Yeah,
no!
Who cares?
No!
Fuck him.
How dare you?
Hey.
We also need to get everyone to check in on their homework. We need to do
that's true.
Yeah.
We're super
But chatters who
overtime.
subscribed and donated, fuck you. Okay.
No,
There we
I
go.
don't know. I've been trying to thank them in the. They've been so kind. I've been trying to thank them in like the chat. But let's do a homework check-in, and then after the homework check-in, I want everyone to be able to shout themselves out. I mean, we'll do next week's homework, I think, probably. And then I want everyone to shout themselves out. And then what I'm thinking, Chad, if you want to thank you for your donation, we might say goodbye, and then I'll go full screen and just talk to you directly and thank you for like 5 minutes, and then we'll end the stream and then host someone. Does that sound good? Like a good plan?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Sounds
I need to
cool with
figure
that.
out how to do a rhythm for this show because I'm extraordinarily not doing it.
You're
so.
killing it.
You're doing a great job, babe. Honestly,
Everybody loves this.
It's going really well.
Yeah.
Okay.
Um,
All right. So yeah. All right. So what do we say? Homework now? We're going to talk about homework. So
Sure.
So Luna, I don't know if you're familiar. I don't think we explained it fully. So we do this is the second episode we've ever had. So this is the first time that we'll be able to check in on the homework we assigned for the first episode. So we assigned the last episode because we asked people in the chat, we said press 1 if you're in a union, if not press 0. And then we're also press 2 if you're in more than one union, I think we said. And so the assignment for this week is to go up a number. If you're at a 0, you want to get to a 1 in that we want you to join a union. If you're at a 1, we want you to get a 2 where you join 2 unions. And if you're at a 2, you know, like honestly, the 2 is extra credit.
The homework for the homework if you're already in a union was to get somebody else in a union, which I think is a pretty good stretch goal. But honestly, it's fine if you're just already in a union, because what we were saying was like, you know, a lot of what will happen in the change of the world is a huge general strike, and you're not going to know it's coming if you're not in any kind of organization. So that's why we want to get people in unions to begin with.
So should we check in with that homework right now to see what we're dealing with?
Yeah.
Are you ready,
absolutely.
chat? By the way, Rob Rousseau just shouted out Luna's video on nationalism and land back.
Yes.
Great video.
So
that's a video.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And by the way, very quick news when you're waiting for the answer from the chat. Yesterday, 16,000 workers of factory in Vietnam strike, and they are still striking.
Oh shit!
The reason is their New Year allowance this year is like $100 less compared to last year. So 16,000 of us decided to strike. But striking is something so normal in Vietnam. And before the pandemic, usually every single day there's going to be a strike, a worker strike somewhere in Vietnam. So yes, together you have your right. And usually the strike will just end after like 2 or 3 days, because like whenever the workers strike, the local government, the workers union immediately jump in and they order to talk with the companies and the factories and try to settle the situation down. And most of the time, I have to say like 80% of the time, the workers got what they want.
Hell yeah.
So this is the Phu Chen factory or something, or the company in Hanoi. Is that right?
It's something like that. Yes, 16,000 people striking.
Yeah, I got it.
Okay, so chat, if you are in a union, press 1. If you're not, press 0. We're really hoping that this is shifted to barely any zeros now.
Be honest. You won't be in trouble. You won't be in trouble.
We just want to see 1s for
so
unions.
what was it?
0s for no union.
I see a lot of 1.
And
wow,
2.
okay,
I think we've really shifted it.
3? Did I see 3?
I think Jordan's actually in a ton of unions right now.
Shit.
Okay.
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 I think that's it was majority 0s last time.
Majority 0 last time.
It's shifted to majority 1s.
It has,
Still a lot of 0s, you know.
Yeah. But there's
we need you to work on that. Yeah.
Maybe the first is the first time they watch it.
Maybe.
Yeah,
That better be the reason.
Yeah, I hope so. Prince Infidel says, I'm researching starting the first unemployment union in CT USA. So
unemployment unions are great. They're actually they're really good.
Yes.
Great idea.
Yeah, 100%.
And like tenants unions, I think are like ones that people kind of don't consider a lot. They think, you know, like like unions are just for workers and things. But no, there's there's so much potential there.
And disability unions, we should
disability.
I'm reaching out to the disability union in the UK at the moment to try and get to organize. Maybe they come on the show. So that's really cool. I think we've shifted to majority. That's really cool.
One of the zeros in the chat, I know it's Cheems' first time here, because Cheems is from my community and said that they hadn't seen the last show. So there you go. That's extra homework for this week, Cheems.
If you hadn't joined a union, if you're one of the people who just press 0, that is okay. Like, it's just fine. But remember that you can do it at any time, and it doesn't have to just be a workers' union. You can join a renters' union, disability union, unemployment union. And to be clear, and we touched on this last time in more detail, but you can also join the IWW. You can also look for unions that apply to the type of job that you do rather than your specific workplace. This kind of stuff. Yes. We will have Matilda from the IWW on the show to talk through all of that in loads of detail, and it'll be really fucking cool. Maybe the homework that week will just be a repeat of week 1. We'll just have go join a union again. But this week, what do we want to do?
We wanted to tell people to
get involved with some stuff, right? Get actually directly involved. Okay, so there are a couple of options. We've been talking about mutual aid, so let's start there. There are gonna be COVID mutual aid groups no matter literally where you are. I know there's one for where I am that's Southwark Mutual Aid on Facebook, and I'm in there, and the way it works is someone posts and it's just these people need food, or this person's heating's gone out and they need a space heater. A really common one, if chat, you're looking to be helpful, a really common one I see all the time is like, does anyone have a car? Because we need a big thing moved from A to B, right?
Oh yeah.
And so if you get into a local mutual aid network, but it's not the joining of it's not the like clicking join on Facebook that we're asking you to do as your homework here. This is about actions. So the two options are: go see what your mutual aid network near you needs and give them it, or see what your union that you joined, what their next action is, and get involved with it.
Yeah,
that's the homework. It's action.
Yes, I'm up for that. Yeah. It's a little bit more than the last one, but I've got faith in him. I've got faith in him. We saw a lot.
I think they could do it.
We saw a lot of ones. It was zeros last time.
It was more zeros. It's shifted to more ones. Like,
yes,
they've fucking got it.
They're leveling up. They're going from the level 0 adventurer set out on the quest. They've joined the adventurers union. There's a couple of them.
Exactly.
Now they're going on their first little quest. Come on.
That's it. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, and
that's
again,
gamify your activism.
Yeah,
if for absolutely any reason,
find out loot boxes. Let's go.
if for absolutely any reason you can't do what we're talking about, like, don't feel bad about yourself. It's okay. Yeah. Like, there are many people who have kids, who are busy all the time, who work full time, who work multiple jobs. There are people who are disabled, can't get out of the house. It's chill. Like, don't worry.
This isn't mean homework. This is fun for you. Homework for us. Homework.
You've just reminded me, Soap, with that I saw in the chat earlier. Bipunk Anarchist said, "How do I speak to my neighbors when I live in like a wealthy white suburb?" Right? I don't know if it was a wealthy white suburb, but Bipunk Anarchist is a black person, right? Mm-hmm. So obviously, like, we're not asking you to go out and put yourself in any danger.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
We want you to just think sort of, okay, what can I do? What's possible for me to do? And you'll be surprised, like with the kind of stuff that's out there. Like Sophie said, there are COVID mutual aid groups all over the place. Like, and they'll be on places where maybe you won't go. Like, I found out that there was a lot of COVID mutual aid groups on Facebook, and I'm not on Facebook. So it's one of those things. You'll find stuff to do. I promise. It'll be good.
Yeah. But just to say it out loud, because people might not see it in the chat, but like people are asking about like how to find that stuff. It's usually just searchable like by location. Just like put in your neighborhood and search for mutual aid or COVID mutual aid or anything. It's probably there.
I already knew about 0161 Manchester previously because I've always been interested in the work and stuff, but I found like I said, when I was talking about Trans Mutual Aid Manchester, I just found that on, bloody Instagram. It's one of those things. You'll find it. And if you get involved with, protest groups in your area and stuff like that, you'll find stuff like that too. Yeah. So.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Based on my... I was just saying, like, based on my own experience joining, because I am the member of Communist Youth Union, and I spent years working like that. So, like, the things that I did, one of the things I did like nearly every week was that, like, first we went to a pagoda, the Buddhist pagoda. The monks over there, they cook like vegan porridge, rice porridge with mushroom and mung beans. We brought like we took the whole huge pot of porridge like that and brought that to the heart hospital.
Oh shit!
And distribute like free porridge to poor patients over there. The second thing I did was that, like, I taught English to disabled children in the Peace Village in Hanoi. The thing was that, like, and I did many other things too, but that's two of the things I remember the most. The thing is that at first it felt hard because you had to go out of your house or your comfort zone to do something, to meet new people that you never ever met before. But like once you got involved, it means like you will develop the love to the people, to poor people, to like I didn't even know that. Like I at first was like, this is just a vegan porridge, who's gonna take this? But poor patients in the heart hospital, they wanted it so bad. They love it. They waiting for us in line before we even got there, because I felt a deep thing like love for them, and I want to do more. And when I taught like English for disabled children in that peace village. Like the best student in the class was the little kid, little boy. He had problem. He can't not talk like frequently, like something like that. But like he's the best boy in the class. He knew every single new word that I gave to the class. It was like it totally killed any alienation or individualism that I had, because in that time I was a little bit liberal leaning. And that was like it kills all that. And the thing is that, like, and I said in my last mooncast, like, the thing that drives communism, anarchism, is the love, because you care for other people. You're communist, you're anarchist, not because it sounds cool or like you want like your own like house in the future or something. It's because you care for people who are in need, and do something mutual aid like that. Go out and do something, and you feel connected to people. You
That's
feel
exactly
like you're helping the people that are in need, and it's so good for your mental health. If you decide to be selfish,
it's love.
If you are selfish,
communism
is good for your mental health.
That's literally like that. That's why we want this as the homework this week, is because literally, like, it is a step up to go outside the house and get involved with a physical, real world thing, if you can. But Luna's so right. Like, it will make you feel fucking incredible. Like, it's the biggest thing that gives you hope that we can do stuff. Is just going and doing stuff, you know? Just
I saw a really base thing on stream this week. We were watching the series The War on Cuba, which you should totally watch if you haven't already. It's about the embargo in Cuba. And there was this moment, and I lost my absolute shit when I saw it, in a good way, because they were interviewing this doctor, this Cuban doctor, right? And if some of you don't know, what Cuba do is they send a lot of doctors out all over the world, because they have so much fucking healthcare in Cuba that it's like, well, we can export it, right?
Absolutely.
And it was such a beautiful moment, and there were two moments, but like I want to touch on them because it's so important. It relates to what Luna said, in that the interviewer said to the doctor, "Why did you want to become a doctor?" So now, you know, before we were talking about how in the Imperial Core, we're thinking, what can we get out of it, right? What can we get out of it? Maybe it's money, maybe it's power, maybe it's something like that. But this doctor, this Cuban doctor, literally said, to feel like I am helping people, to feel like I have saved a life. And then later on in the show, his daughter is then saying, I want to be a doctor like my dad because he inspires me with his selflessness. Now, imagine that, right? Not because they make a lot of money, not because they have a higher social standing, but because of selflessness and love and compassion for our fellow human, right?
Fuck yeah.
Yeah,
Fuck
absolutely fucking based.
Someone has put this in the chat, and I feel like I have to say it out loud again because people aren't all necessarily reading the chat. Mutualaid.wiki is just a cool, like, again, another one of these maps. I'll just repost it, but that's pretty cool. Just check that out as well if you're looking at stuff. Cool. There we go. That's the homework.
Yeah.
Get out there and get involved in earthing.
You will be surprised about the amount of people that will need your help.
Yeah, seriously. And that's when, by the way, chat, you're going to be able to start reporting back to us and telling us about cool stuff you're doing. And that's when things are going to get really cool. Okay.
Yes.
All right, cool.
So should we all shout out everyone?
Yeah, so I think at this point, everyone shout yourself out. Should we start with Luna? Because I want to make sure that everyone is like perked up the most for Luna, because I so appreciate you coming on. It's been so cool to have you here and to hear your perspective and like hear your experiences and just like to be able to finally talk to you. So first of all,
also
like,
Luna doesn't get like also Luna gets only like a hostile audience all the time, and it's good to like have Luna in a setting where we're just chatting and it's chill, right?
Yeah, no, we're definitely we're not here to debate or any of that crap. So you know, we're very glad to have you and to learn from you. So
thank you so much. Yeah, really appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it, because you know that the last few days was really hard time for me.
Yeah.
And I just want to chill out with you guys. And the thing is that I said so many times that like, I am Luna. I'm a Vietnamese communist born and living in Vietnam. I am not here to debate you, or I am not here to say that I'm right and you're wrong. The whole point of me having my channel and to talk to you people like this, like I just want to give you a different perspective, maybe sometimes new knowledge about Vietnam, showing you like a different world exists. And like Vietnam is not perfect. We still have a long way to go, and we have still have so many problems. But at least like we are setting some example and lessons for you, comrades in the West, to look at us. Look at what we did wrong and what we did right. Look at what we achieved and take what is useful for you. Take them. You're free to take them and leave out what you don't think is going to be suitable for your society, and that is fine. And that is why I am here and I talk to you guys, even though I bear every single day I face racism, sexism, chauvinism, all kinds of stuff like that. But it's not gonna stop me because I know that there are so many people, comrades, like in this panel today, like really want to listen, and I really appreciate that. I would love to give you a perspective like that. And I'm not saying that I'm always right, because I'm just a person, and I am wrong many times. And so glad to be here today, and so glad to share my experience and my knowledge with you. Solidarity and trans rights.
Yeah.
Thanks, Luna.
That was great. So we Chloe and my mod in the chat, can we get some trans rights in the chat? That'd be great. Chloe, my mod, put your links in. Chloe, could you do that one more time? I can't find your, your Twitter and your YouTube. Yeah, so make sure, I'm going to spam that. Make sure you subscribe to Luna's YouTube and follow her on Twitter. Please and thank you.
You won't regret it.
Yeah. Do both. It's also your homework.
I know.
Do those. That's your homework.
Do it right now. Come on, chat. This is easy homework.
Yeah, this
what
is
I'm
super
curious
easy.
about is where we can find Tim and what does he do? He's so mysterious.
That's me. You can find me on Twitch. Right here is Conquest of Dread, what's written down under my picture here. Or you can find me on YouTube as Conquest of Dread, but just with spaces, where I do like video essays and stuff. Or you can find me over on Twitter at Dread Conquest. So a little bit different over there, Dread Conquest on Twitter, where I mainly just shitpost. But thanks for joining, everyone. Thanks for doing all your homework and stuff. It's been awesome to hang out. It's been it's been great. It's been super inspiring to see everyone actually following through. So yeah, that's awesome. But what about DJ Mule? Where can we find you?
Oh, and real quick, the video we watched earlier was from Conquest of Dread's channel. So
that's the quality of video. Yeah, that's the quality of video you can expect.
That's the video.
Yeah. I've got another one.
Fucking great.
I want to go check it out real quick.
Oh, it's great. Yeah, exclamation point video. If you want the link directly to the channel, his channel is super like cool and just whatever.
All Tim's videos are so
cool
good.
Vibe.
Honest.
Okay, all right, Mule, go ahead.
Thank you, Tim. You can find me streaming on Twitch Monday to Thursday, 7 p.m. UK time. 5 p.m. UK time. With the name spelled exactly as it is underneath me, like Tim's. Or you could get at me on Twitter, which is spelled exactly the same with an underscore on the end. And I also have a YouTube channel where I upload. I'm doing a series of conversations on my stream with other leftist content creators, and you can find that on YouTube. That's DJMU3L. Because someone has nicked the E. But yeah, that's where you can find me. And again, I just want to echo what Tim said. Like this, seeing the response to the first episode last week was super cool. Really happy that everyone's getting out there, doing the homework, doing the bit. Let's go. Let's fucking go.
That's right. And Soph, do you want to go ahead?
Sophie, yeah.
I'm Sophie. I'm Sophie from Mars across all the platforms: Twitch, Twitter, Patreon, YouTube. On YouTube, I do media analysis, but this year I'm going to do a lot more explicitly political stuff. Starting this month, I'm going to be releasing, for a limited time, weekly episodes of a show called Organizing Interviews, where I talk to organizers and activists from around the world about what they can do, how you can do it yourself. It's going to be pretty fucking cool. And a lot of those people will also wind up being on here. So, it's a worthwhile, checking out. You'll get spoilers for Red Planet. That's Sophie from Mars, across all the stuff. And the most important one is patreon.com Sophie from Mars, because that's how I pay my bills, which I wish I didn't have, but I do. I also gave a speech yesterday at the trans rights protest outside the BBC, protesting the horrible transphobia of the UK media, but I chose to make my speech a little bit more widespread than just the transphobia, as I often try to do, and talk about how the media works in general, and that'll be up on my channel tomorrow. So like, if you want to see a cool speech I did, just go subscribe to my channel. I think that's everything. Yeah, cool.
Very cool.
Maybe you could get a Bad Bunny on, I don't know, somehow, some way. I don't know.
Yeah, all the places. Bad Bunny, right?
Well, yeah, go ahead.
I just want to reiterate one more time, the homework this week is to get involved. One way or another, go do a thing, get some people some food, or drive a thing to a place, or go join in a union action. Just get involved.
Very cool. And I figure I can shout myself out like after this, because I'll thank everyone for their donations when we wrapped up the show.
Yeah.
But
okie dokie.
Does that sound good, everyone? You already are on my channel, so I'm already at like way ahead of the game, so I'm not that concerned about shouting myself out anyways. But yeah, we'll do that in a second, chat. So if you donated, or if you want to get a quick donation in, subscribe. Do you want to give me money, please?
Now's the
time. You can go ahead and do that, because I will be thanking all of you in just about a second. So can we get some claps in the chat? Bung clap or bung clap F if you are not a subscriber. For Luna for coming on. One last bung clap. Thank you so much, Luna. It was really super great having you on. And also for the hosts.
You're welcome.
And we are still finalizing the schedule, but next week we will be talking about why you shouldn't be a doomer, against the black pill, with Mildred from Thought Slime. The week after that, we'll be talking about on the ground protest and riot tactics with Anansi's Library. 2 incredibly based weeks coming up. You have to tune in.
Yes, please join us every Sunday at 10 p.m. UK time, and Monday morning 11 a.m. New Zealand time.
Yes.
Tim, and 2 p.m. PST. I can't do the conversion for Vietnam, sadly. Sorry, Luna.
5 a.m. Vietnam time.
5 a.m. Yeah, if you're a real early bird.
Whoa.
Okay, cool.
All right.
All right. Good night, everyone.
Right.
Bye, everyone. I'll be with you, chat. But yeah, bye, everyone. Thank you so much, Luna. Thanks, everybody.
Oh, wait, everybody! I'm gonna have a broadcast in 1 hour.
There you go.
Please.
Past the 1 hour.
Okay, go follow Luna so you can get on that. All right.
Yeah.
Broadcast in 1 hour.
Okay.
Yay.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
All right, so chat. Let's see, is this gonna work? Yeah, we're good. Okay, good. Y'all have seriously put together a badass show. I think it's pretty cool. Yeah, I think it's pretty cool. Everyone, maybe 1 week the homework should be you bring someone to the show. Maybe we'll do that 1 week. Because I want this shit to get bigger, harder. Like I want everyone to fucking I want there to be like momentum here. Like momentum. Because it's super, I think, for me, it gets me so fucking pumped when that happens. You know? Because you can try in your head to like build stuff and you can talk to each other, but when you see just like people showing up and I don't know. There's something really like going to a protest or something. Yeah, I want to get it bigger and harder. Thank you, Carolina. Yeah.